A crisp morning with gentle sunlight covering the city in a warm hue. On a tree branch, a pair of sparrows are showing affection to each other. Suddenly, a scream echoes through the sky, startling them and making them fly away. Oh my God, Miss Trang, could you please stop wasting money on those useless matchmaking agencies? An irritable young woman and her equally furious mother, who smacks her on the shoulder. Besides, don't you think preparing for these blind dates is too expensive? If you have that much extra money, why not buy me some clothes? Stop whining and hurry up. Subin is furious but can only try to reason with her mother. Listen to your daughter one more time. She says, I'm not getting involved in this stuff anymore. Goodness, Mom, this absolutely has to be the last time. Her mother turns a deaf ear to her, hurriedly pushing her outside to the meeting place despite her protests. I hear you. Now get your butt out of here. Hurry up. Ugh, Mom. Being pushed out the door by her mother makes her lose her balance, almost falling flat on the ground. She mutters and grumbles as she walks. Mom is way too much. However, her anger hasn't subsided yet. Besides, why do I have to travel to such a faraway place instead of just selling tteokbokki, all just to satisfy her demands? She feels utterly helpless against a mother who arbitrarily decides everything. No matter how many times she tells her mother she doesn't want to get married, she just won't listen. Deep in thought, she suddenly notices something that makes her forget her gloomy mood. A dreamy atmosphere with pink petals fluttering in the wind, bringing a sense of peace to one's heart. She is enjoying the inherent poetic peace of this beautiful moment. Well, the weather today isn't too bad, is it? Shifting to another scene, inside a luxurious restaurant. Oh, a man is introducing himself as the eldest son in his family. At this moment, Subin smiles back to greet him. Oh, is that so? Well, technically, I'm still living with my family. I'm also the type to prioritize my personal life over work. He talks about his parents with great pride, telling her my parents are very gentle and kind. They work day and night, yet I haven't been able to help them much. Faced with his self-praise, she can only offer a polite smile in return. So, I want them to be able to rest when they reach that age. Besides, that's the natural duty of a child, right? I understand. He is overly enthusiastic, asking one question after another. Speaking of which, Subin, your father, please go on. I heard he was in an accident? Yes. Mentioning her father suddenly plunges her into an indescribable silence. About 3 years ago, he was hit by a truck. I see. Right then, the two fall into an awkward silence. He hesitates for a while before finally daring to ask. So that means you're the only one shouldering the burden at home now, right? Just as she puts down her water glass, he brings up the topic of finances. I heard your family owns a shop. How big is it? Subin gives a forced smile and says, it's not very big. It's just a snack stall selling tteokbokki in front of school. The landlord who rents the place to us is also a customer. So in other words, I also get some extra money from them. Is that so? He always finds a way to ask her about everything. Miss Subin, you still live with your family, right? I'm just a bit curious about that. After asking, he scratches his cheek shyly and says, it's not that I don't like you. On the contrary, I feel like I've been struck by lightning. Subin laughs and replies to ease his embarrassment. Oh my, what should I do then? You know, I'm an only child. Naturally, I don't have any siblings, and I plan to continue living with my family. I'm even thinking about keeping my job if I get promoted. After saying this, she stands up and faces him directly. I'm afraid we're not a good match. Feeling a bit awkward about rejecting him before getting to know each other better, she adds, I hope you find the right person for you. Wait, Miss Subin. He, however, refuses to accept her rejection and tries hard to explain things to her. Don't be so absolute, at least you should consider it. In his attempt to hold her back, he ends up saying some harsh truths. Are you worried that if you get married, you'll become an outsider? You can't just follow your parents around to serve them forever. His callous words leave her almost stunned. Besides, aren't you also facing many other problems in life? You haven't even thought about how you'll support yourself after retirement, have you? Having crossed the line of basic decency, she speaks up to interrupt him. I don't like this at all, but if you want, I'll even consider moving close to your family's house after we get married. Hey, mister. She seriously puts her hand to her forehead like a police officer enforcing the rules and says, I was trying to act like a polite, mature woman, but Subin is furious, clenching her fist to hold back, her face bearing a warning expression. Look at my face and see how patient I've been with you. You just love pushing my buttons, don't you? If you think your parents are that important, then so are mine. What? She intimidates him with a blazing aura of anger. Oh boy, turns out you're just a spoiled brat who loves to run his mouth. Her psychological blow is so effective that it sends him running for the hills. You better go home and treat them well first, you jerk. Excúsame. Boiling with anger, she dives into eating everything on the table to vent her frustration. Who do you think you're to talk about my parents like that, you blockhead? She crunches on ice loudly, as if chewing on meat. Damn it, I really want to swear. After regaining her composure, she lets out a sigh. Shin Subin. At this moment, she tells herself, you're not going anywhere, because you can take care of yourself without needing anyone else. After stepping out of the restaurant, it is pouring rain outside. Subin opens her umbrella and looks up at the sky, exclaiming, what is wrong with the sky? Walking in the persistent rain, she secretly sighs in weariness. What should I tell Mom? Suddenly, she spots a mother looking worried because she didn't bring an umbrella, even though the child beside her looks very happy. There must be a convenience store around here somewhere, sweetie. Yay, it's raining. She walks toward the mother and child, tilting her umbrella over the mother, and says, oh, it looks like the rain is getting heavier and won't stop anytime soon. Right? It seems you didn't bring an umbrella, did you? Subin kindly offers her only umbrella to the mother and child, even though she will get wet. You have a little one with you, so please don't let the baby get wet. Here, take my umbrella. No, I'll be fine. Please just use it. After some gentle persuasion, the mother and child finally accept the umbrella. As they leave, they don't forget to thank her repeatedly. Thank you so much. Bye-bye, little one. After standing there to wave goodbye to them for about 5 seconds, she dashes off into the heavy rain. Suddenly, a man's voice rings out of nowhere, startling her. You still like to meddle in other people's business, don't you? Good heavens. At first, because the umbrella covers half of his body, she doesn't recognize him. Who is that? A criminal? Or a ghost? But when he raises the umbrella, she recognizes a familiar face. Jiehun, it's been a while, hasn't it? Without any greetings, he gets straight to the point. You owe me a lot of things. Where did you pop out from like a ghost? You scared me. Your mouth is still as toxic as ever. Him calling her toxic out of nowhere makes her very annoyed. What do you mean my mouth is toxic? But after thinking about why he is here, she comes to a conclusion. She asks slowly, did you come here to collect money? Yeah, what else? His words leave her standing frozen, not knowing how to react. It's been 10 years. I'm here to get it back. Suddenly, Jiehun drops a bombshell. Let's get married. Subin freezes for about 2 seconds, staring at him. After a long moment, the freezing rain snaps her back to reality, and she screams loudly. What? A clap of thunder echoes in the sky, making the atmosphere even more tense. What did you just say? Waiting a long time without him answering, she frowns and snaps. I asked, what did you just say? How is your mother doing lately? Him asking an unrelated question out of nowhere catches her off guard. She's fine. What about the shop? Same. Thanks for asking. Jiehun, with a cold face and tone, suggests, let's go somewhere to talk. Subin stands in the rain, scratching her head and frowning. Does it have to be now? Why can't it be another day? It's not like I'm running away from my debt. Before she can even finish her sentence, she sees him strolling ahead. It's just that I'm not feeling very well right now. Hey, Jiehun. In the pouring rain, the two of them are a study in contrasts. One is unhurried and calm, while the other is rushed and struggling. Hey, wait up. By now, she has run up behind him and raises her voice. You have an umbrella, and you're just going to let me follow you like this? His response is a heartless gaze, as if he couldn't care less about her condition, which fuels her dissatisfaction. This guy, Subin, has been very annoyed all this time, but hasn't been able to vent it out. Your personality is still as infuriating as ever. He replies with a remark that stabs like a knife. And your face is still as unlikable as always. The confrontational atmosphere between the two seems so intense that not even the thunder and lightning can interrupt it. This is driving me crazy. Ending the conversation, Jiehun now recalls his father's words. This is your last chance. His father gave him an ultimatum. You have 1 month to get married, or I will choose who you marry. Dad, I have no interest in that. Suddenly, as soon as he finished speaking, a loud bang echoed as his father slammed his hand on the desk and growled. Jiehun, having run out of ways to persuade him, his father resorted to threats. If you don't get married, don't even dream of sitting in my chair. What? You have 1 month, and if you can't do that simple task, you will lose everything. Despite his fierce objections, his father remained stubborn in his decision. Dad, I don't want to get married. As a human being, there's a limit to what one could take, Although he didn't want to force him, he had to because of Jiehoon's grandmother. Your grandmother. She only has 6 months left. Snapping out of his memories and back to the present, he contemplates how to tell her. Waiting for a long time without him saying anything, Subin asks grumpily, "So, what do you want to say? Let's get married." Hearing this soul-crushing sentence makes her jump and yell loudly, "Hell no." "Okay, I'll say it for the 3rd time." He is quite patient for the sake of his grand plan and repeats his request. "Marry me." "Do you even understand the meaning of marriage, you lunatic? Are you on drugs? Don't look like I have time for that. Did you hit your head on something? I'm serious." She tries to explain to him what marriage is. "You don't understand anything at all. Marriage is not a game. Just 1 year. If you agree to marry me for 1 year, I will wipe that debt clean. We will pretend it never happened." Even though he offered a very attractive condition, she still couldn't accept it. Think about it. The conditions and rewards aren't bad, right? Marriage is not a game. You said so yourself. She grumpily lowered her voice and asked, Just because I owe you money, you're making a fool out of me? Don't get so worked up." Jiehoon knew all her thoughts. "Anyway, you don't have any plans to get married either." "What?" He stated an overly accurate number. "If not, how could you have missed out 13 times like that?" Just one sentence was enough to deduce that he had investigated her information. "Does your mother know you're this kind of arrogant person? Have you been stalking me?" He was like an arrogant person that made people hate him. "Do you think I just come to see you whenever I feel like it? I'm not the type to let my feet walk ahead of my brain. You know that well." Now she had verified a truth about him. This was who he really was, a cunning guy who would use any means to get what he wanted. It was exactly as she had thought. She stood up, faced him, and said, "Don't appear in front of me again. I will find a way to pay you back." Without waiting for her to refuse further, he said something that made her freeze. "How do you plan to pay? I've given you a whole 10 years. If you didn't have the money to pay in all that time, how do you plan to pay now?" He repeated the agreement time frame, as if wanting to advise her once more. "I already told you, the agreement is only valid for 1 month. I don't care about your circumstances, as long as you're on time on the exact date." Her hands clenched so tightly that her fingernails left deep marks in her flesh. As she turned around to leave in silence, he kept repeating, "Just think about it. And after that, I can send an amount of money enough for you and your parents to live a carefree life." Subin turned back, giving him a look and a disdainful smile. "Huh?" She contemptuously raised her middle finger and said, "Is your brain so dumb that you can't understand I just freaking don't want to? Learn to live beautifully like Tchaikovsky's swans." Having vented some of her anger, she huffed and walked away quickly and forcefully. What madman! Only he was left sitting there in silence, facing the harsh truth. Stepping outside the restaurant, she still didn't forget to curse at him to vent her anger. "Jiehoon, you lunatic, do you even understand what you just said?" "Hey, that's his umbrella." Outside, it was still pouring, and the rain seemed to be getting heavier. Subin took his umbrella, walking and mocking. "I'll just take this umbrella. Walk home in the rain, you idiot." After she arrived home, the rain showed no signs of stopping. "I'm home." As soon as she set foot in the door, her mother eagerly asked about the date. "You're back? How was the date? Did you manage to drag the guy back?" Faced with her mother's questions, she felt quite guilty because she had threatened and chased the person away. She then found an excuse to change the subject, saying, "Mom, I'm a bit tired. I'll probably go straight to sleep." Not giving her mother a chance to nag, she scurried straight to her room, but didn't forget to wish her a good night. "You should go to sleep early too, Mom." After showering and changing into clean clothes, she collapsed onto the soft bed and sighed. "I'm so dead tired." At this moment, as time quietly passed, she suddenly fell into thought, reminiscing about the past. "I've waited for you for 10 years, and you still say you'll find a way to pay me back?" Recalling the memories of how he had helped her family, Jiehoon lent me 100 million, an amount that could be considered quite large to start a debt. A number so large that she had to sigh. "I used that money to open a snack stall for Mom, and also to pay for Dad's hospital bills. Of course, in an emergency, I could still pay him back with another loan. It's just that I never thought he would want to be paid back with a wedding instead of money." Thinking back and forth for a while made her very tired. "This is driving me crazy. I still have to go to work tomorrow. I first met Jiehoon when I was 6 at elementary school. I'm sorry." The first meeting was also the last time their relationship drifted further apart due to a huge misunderstanding. "But I honestly meant no harm." Recalling that stunned moment made her feel very helpless about their relationship. "Meant no harm. Are you satisfied now?" Right from the start, it had hit a dead end. During those school days, Jihoon was always admired by the female students. Oh, it's really him. He's like on a whole other level. How can he be so handsome? He's a new transfer student, right? At that time, all the classmates praised him. Breathtakingly handsome. Suddenly, Jihoon saw a drink carton placed in front of him. Hey, want a drink? Young Subin at this time was also enthusiastic towards the new friend. You haven't eaten anything for lunch. Aren't you hungry? After a while, he looked at her with a contemplative gaze. Then he uttered a sentence that made her very dissatisfied, slamming her hand on the desk. Only ugly people drink that stuff. What? And his teasing also made her lose her temper. Naya, ugly girl. You drink it yourself? You think you're so pretty? If you don't want it, don't drink it. Jihoon transferred here when I was in 6th grade, and because of his handsome looks, he was the topic of discussion everywhere he went. During a class, the teacher casually asked about something. Isn't this the list of students who haven't paid the field trip fee? For those who haven't paid, tomorrow is the deadline. When leaving, if Subin wasn't mistaken, he hadn't paid the fee yet. It seems like Jihoon hasn't paid the field trip fee either. Is it because he's so handsome? He attracts attention wherever he goes. Suddenly, she heard a shout about the field trip fee that inevitably caught her attention. What the hell is a field trip fee? Go out to the streets and scavenge from the dying homeless. Hearing those harsh words, her footsteps slowed down significantly. How dare you show your face here to ask for money? Right at this moment, she noticed the window of a house where the shout came from. A man was abusing and beating a boy. Why are you so rebellious? But when she looked closely at who the boy was, she widened her eyes in shock. It turned out to be Jihoon, the person she had just thought of, mixed with the sounds of beating. Oh my God! A new day began again at the bustling, lively school. There was no one in the classroom at this time. Subin tiptoed in. Anyway, she sneaked over to his seat with a white envelope in her hand. It's not that he doesn't want to pay, but he can't, even if this is my field trip fee. How should I explain this to Mom later? If Jihoon sees this, he'll definitely tell me to get lost. Suddenly, noisy sounds echoed outside the classroom, making her jump in surprise. Because of that, she hurriedly hid the envelope of money in his book and ran away from the area. The envelope didn't fit neatly inside the book but stuck out a bit due to her rush. Now in class, a student reported to the teacher, "Sir, my field trip money is missing." The classmates gossiped together about the field trip fee. Jihoon hasn't paid the field trip fee yet, right? Didn't you know? He's dirt poor. His mother left him for his grandparents to raise. Oh wow, I've seen him at that semi-basement apartment. His grandfather yells loudly whenever he gets drunk, right? And so, her envelope of money caused a disaster for him. What? So it really was him? He was called to the office by the teacher. Jihoon, come to the teacher's office with me. Even though I explained that it was my envelope, the misunderstandings just kept piling up. The teacher thought I felt pity for Jihoon, so I stepped up to cover for him. In the end, we all concluded that the other classmate's field trip money was lost, only to realize later that he had slipped it inside a book. That disastrous mix-up brought their relationship into tension. I'm sorry. She tried to explain it to him until her throat almost gave out. I completely meant well. He didn't believe her and slapped the back of her hand that was grabbing his shirt. Meant well? He angrily yelled. Do you think just saying that will fix everything? Don't you think your ego is a bit too high? She asked. Then what should I do to make you feel better? I don't need anything. What? The two struggled back and forth for quite a long time. I said I don't need anything, so stop sticking your nose into my business. I will definitely avenge this grudge. Face to face with her, he raised his voice threateningly. That feeling, I will definitely make you experience it once in your life. Then you will realize how the gazes of others can kill you. That was how their relationship ended. In the end, we both graduated without ever intruding into each other's lives. And even so, it's hard to believe that both our lives turned upside down so much. After graduating, she and he had gone to a new school, and she had moved to a different house. Sadly, my dad's business went bankrupt. Phew, even though my family had to move. Subin remembered the house he had to live in when he was young. Now she had to live in a similar one. This is where Jihoon used to live, right? They said it was a semi-basement apartment. I think his mother remarried a rich man and moved away. Lately, we just act like we don't know each other at school. The atmosphere around him has changed too. It makes me feel scared. Recalling the scene where he and a classmate fought made her terrified. You're that guy Jihoon, right? After that heavy blow, he fell down with a wound on the corner of his lips. But he still didn't give up, standing up to counterattack the opponent. Sounds of smacks echoed throughout the hallway, and it only stopped thanks to a classmate running to report the incident. Sir, there's a fight here. The teacher's office was filled with strictness. At this moment, the office door opened, Jiehun came out, saw her, and said, "You." She looked at him and made a firm statement. "You did that on purpose, didn't you?" He brought up their agreement. "What's this? Didn't we agree to ignore each other? Why the sudden change? Don't come talk to me. Get lost." "Wait about that," she asked worriedly. "That guy, he said in front of the whole school that he would snatch the student council president position. So you got mad and went looking for him, right? I saw you two meet. What did you say to him? You provoked him so he would hit you first, right? So what?" She continued questioning. "What do you mean, so what? Will that cause any trouble? Anyway, he's the winner. A little patience brings great peace. Did you think I would say that? You're really weird. I definitely won't teach my children to be that forgiving. Even when I'm near death, don't expect me to change." His words made her grit her teeth in frustration. Suddenly, she unexpectedly grabbed his arm and shouted, "Wait." She suddenly started stammering out advice to him, saying that holding a grudge would only make things worse. "So you should just let it go. What I mean is," Jun grabbed her by the shoulders and asked quietly, as if asking himself the same question. "Why do you want to help other people when you're scared yourself?" He leaned close to her ear and said, "Are you scared because you think you might be the next target?" After saying that, he walked away without a word of goodbye. Under normal circumstances, if he had done anything worse than the fight just now, he probably would have been expelled or suspended from school. But the student council's rule that everyone deserves to live a wonderful life had saved him from that. Yet because the brawl had happened, people would now seize the opportunity to confront each other on equal footing. And Ji Yejuan's standing as a top candidate would certainly be shaken. Because of that incident, they wouldn't let him live in peace. Ji Yejuan had changed so much. Now he had everything in his hands, and the only thing he needed to do was keep wearing that insufferable expression of his. By the time she entered high school, she was burying her face in her arms and sobbing quietly. And her father, he was still hanging in there. Her family was now on the brink of collapse. The street food stall her parents had worked so hard to build to help the family get by had been destroyed by gangsters. Her mother, though injured herself, still tried to comfort her, saying that her father would need to be hospitalized for at least 6 months. At that point, our family was truly in a desperate situation, so I was overwhelmed with sadness and fear. Those memories also made me feel so pitiful. And yet, ironically, he was the one who reached out a hand to help me through that hardship. One day, Yejuan came to her house to pay a visit. "Hello." She was stunned to see him there. "This is Su Bin's house, right?" Without waiting for her mother to ask, he introduced himself. "I'm a friend of Su Bin's. My name is Ji Yejuan." The sunset had sunk below the horizon, bathing Su Bin's house in a warm golden light. Her mother was deeply grateful for the money he had offered to sponsor them. "I really don't know how to thank you enough." "Oh, please don't mention it, ma'am. I'm happy to help. There was a time when I was in a very difficult situation myself, and Su Bin helped me. Did she not tell you that she paid my field trip fee for me? The loan he gave us was 100 million won, with a repayment period of 10 years, and the debt would start being counted from the day I began working. To put it more accurately, it was like a lifeline at exactly the right moment." He looked at her with a smile and said, "Please just consider it my way of repaying what your daughter did for me back then." I had wanted to refuse it outright without even thinking twice. Because the amount was quite large, her mother still hesitated and didn't dare accept it. But still, it really is a very large sum of money. The amount doesn't matter. He had gone this far just to get back at her. What matters is the intention, isn't it? She stood to one side, falling into a stunned silence at this bitterly pointed act of revenge. "Oh, this is..." Her mother looked puzzled at the person standing beside him. So he had to explain, "My secretary. She'll help you with the contract." She had already prepared the contract and handed it directly to her mother. I filled in all the details. You can review it right here. Yejuan came to stand beside her and placed a hand on her shoulder, saying, "Don't worry, I'm not giving you anything for free." The words weren't harsh, yet she could still clearly recognize that this was the revenge he had spoken of when they were young. "No matter where you go, even to the ends of the earth, I'll find you. Make sure you pay me back every last penny, all right?" Those careless words from a careless person drifted past her without so much as a glance. Su Bin clenched her fist tightly at the humiliation. So this is what it felt like, being mistaken for the one who stole the field trip money back then, Ji Yejuan. This grudge is on a whole other level. Back in the present, a new day had begun, and she was at the office working. "Assistant." A group of junior colleagues cheerfully proposed. "It's been a month since your promotion. We have to go out for a meal, don't we?" "What do you mean?" These people were only asking because they wanted a free meal. What do you mean by that? Come on, you're not going to let this just slip by in a daydream, are you, Subin? Even though she knew exactly what they were after, she still happily agreed. All right, fine. You want to eat? I'll treat you all. Subin is the best. The group, taking a mile after being given an inch, started demanding more dishes. I'll have the bone broth soup. I want the braised pork knuckle. One beef tenderloin for this girl here. Hey, who just said beef tenderloin? That's her over there. And then the meal quickly came to an end, and everyone said their goodbyes and headed home. Thank for the meal. She opened her current balance on her phone. Current balance on account. XXXX. Spent at restaurant. 20. She let out a quiet sigh and thought to herself, I'm going to be completely broke again this month. Even when I do earn money, bus 20 approaching the stop, it feels like none of it is really mine. Sitting on the bus, she couldn't help but let her thoughts wander about her own fate. Ever since I've had to struggle through life like an ant, I've never been able to enjoy my own paycheck. But even so, listen, Subin, you have to admit that the reason you're chipping away at this debt little by little right now is because of that Yejuan, not because of that wretched IOU. Even though Yejuan helped my family escape that debt to the illegal lenders, if he came asking for repayment right now, I wouldn't have a single cent to give him. If you do what I say for 1 year, you'll be free. So think it over carefully. Please, I don't want to think about the word marriage, but I had almost saved up the full 100 million won to repay him, but I ended up having to use it to cover Dad's hospital bills. In the middle of her thoughts, a tiny Yejuan appeared beside her ear and said, Hey, Shin Subin, didn't I already say that I would take care of you and your parents for the rest of your lives? Then another Yejuan appeared alongside the first. With that money, you could open a shop for your mother on Jeju Island. Isn't that always been your dream, to be by your parents' side until their final days? Close your eyes and think it over. On her left and on her right, a Yejuan on each side kept urging her to accept. It's only 1 year. 1 year in exchange for freedom for the rest of your life. So, Shin Subin, you should, fed up with the nagging in her ears, she irritably waved her hands to shoo them away. Oh, for goodness sake, get out of my head, you pair of lunatics. When a notification chimed, she opened her phone and thought, I almost forgot. This week is Sun Young's wedding, isn't it? Let me think. How much should I give as a gift? She posed the question to herself. Should I even go? A question that was awfully hard to answer made her let out a long sigh. Get a grip, Shin Subin. In the end, after days of going back and forth, she did show up to the wedding. Oh my goodness. Wishing you a lifetime of happiness, Sun Young. Subin was congratulating the bride. You look so beautiful. Congratulations. Let's take a photo. She and two friends were now chatting about this and that. I heard she said her husband works at a big company. Really? She didn't tell me anything. But honestly, it's hard to believe. The two girls walking ahead of her kept discussing the bride's good fortune. I mean, just a month ago, she had just broken up with her ex-boyfriend. And then suddenly she's walking down the aisle with someone else. Right? I always thought those two would end up getting married. Well, either way, Sun Young certainly knows when it's the right time to get married. The two suddenly turned to ask Subin, Don't you think so, Subin? Oh well, huh? Seeing her fumble for an answer, both of them didn't wait and kept going. Exactly. She'll probably be grateful she chose this path, as long as he treats her well. But honestly, I'm so jealous of all those wedding gifts. What a situation to be in, marrying a rich husband like that. Even if you divorce after a year, you have no regrets. You should try at least once in your life, right? I mean, am I wrong? I used to think that marriage was something bound together by love, not by conditions. Time, circumstances, social standing, everyone has their own view on marriage. Look at Sun Young's mother over there. She looks incredibly pleased with her new son-in-law. I used to dream of becoming a devoted wife and a loving mother more than anything. But perhaps now that's just a far too extravagant picture of the future for someone like me. She gazed at that joyful ceremony and, though with a tinge of regret, managed a small smile. Indeed, marriage really is something out of reach for me. Then tiny Yejuan appeared beside her ear once more. Hey, little Miss Feelings, so that's your dream after all, is it? Then stop hesitating and reconsider. She waved her hands again to shoo him away and muttered under her breath, Ugh, why is it that every time I think of something, you have to go and pop into my head? Get lost, you cold-blooded lunatic. Just then, the two girls from before were talking about a man nearby. What about that guy over there? Isn't he incredibly handsome? Could he be some kind of celebrity? Let's go sit with him at dinner, shall we? What if he's already married, though? What? She doubted her own eyes and doubted herself. I've been so caught up thinking about that lunatic that I haven't been paying attention to anything around me. Yejuan had spotted her and turned to look in her direction. Oh, he's looking over here. That one glance alone was enough to make her freeze in horror. Insanely handsome. Oh my God, girl. A shriek rang out across the venue. What on earth? She cried out in despair to the heavens above. Oh, please, give me one good reason. In her predicament, she hurriedly pushed the other two aside and steered them away. Why do I run into that face everywhere I go? Let's get out of here, come on. By now the reception had begun, and all three of them sat down at a table at random. Since it was a buffet, she was going around helping herself to food. Suddenly Yejuan's voice sounded right beside her ear, making her jump. Your taste in food is still quite good, I see. What the? She complained irritably. What are you doing here? Is this another one of your schemes? He helped himself to food as he explained the situation. The groom is the son of one of our company's managers. A nicely arranged plate of food appeared before her eyes. So of course it makes sense that I'm here. Even though the reason was perfectly reasonable, she still didn't buy it. That explanation doesn't hold up at all. Do you think I'm that stupid? If you need an excuse, come up with a better one. Do I look like I'm joking? She glared at him through gritted teeth, her eyes full of contempt. Fuming, she blurted out, "Stop talking nonsense. Are you following me?" She shuddered when she heard him state flatly, "I am following you." What the? Are you out of your mind? She had spoken so loudly that everyone around them was bewildered and started murmuring among themselves. This left Yejuan equally baffled. The dishes at the reception were being praised by everyone as delicious. Here they come. Subi noticed something and wondered. I thought the elderly group was sitting there earlier. She asked everyone, "Hey, has the elderly group next to us already finished eating?" Ah, maybe they're sitting somewhere around here. Did you see them leave? Suddenly, a young man waved his hand, telling an acquaintance to come over. Director O is here. That person came and pulled up a chair next to Subin, catching her attention. Please, make yourself comfortable. The person who arrived was him, which startled her greatly. What the heck, you? He asked what's wrong. Isn't this seat taken by anyone yet? Don't anyone stop me. Let me fight him to the death. Subin, the girl sitting next to her smiled and asked, do you know him? Ah, him. Director. Do you know her? Why hesitate instead of nodding? After nodding, he explained further, we went to the same elementary, middle, and high school. Oh my God. Wow, that sounds great. Nice to meet you. It's so good to meet Subin's classmate here. She actually knows a prince like him. Her friend at the table playfully joked, and you two have never dated? Ha, excuse me, but what do you do? He called you director, right? The other guy explained, we work for a travel agency. Its name is Kadar. The two female friends asked in astonishment. The Cat Hour affiliated with K Group? Cat Hour is the best service in Korea. Good heavens. Yes, the person sitting in front of us right now is the director. Oh my. Suddenly, a man walked up and exclaimed, oh wow. He very naturally placed his hands on the shoulders of the two girls and said, who do we have here? Aren't these incredibly beautiful ladies? After saying that, he noticed the person next to them. Oh, it's you. Subin is here too. Hello, Shin. Your beauty has really leveled up lately. He didn't hesitate to ask to sit between the two girls. I can sit here, right? Please do, yes. He noticed Subin's attitude and asked, what's with that face? And naturally, without knowing them, he asked the two girls, it's been a long time. How have you been? Are you doing well? What a coincidence. Or maybe they know each other. I don't even know where he popped up from. Subin drank water while looking at him with an indifferent attitude. Ah, him. His name is Choi Jin-young, known as the bomb of the university. Whenever alcohol enters his system, his head becomes completely empty. After evaluating him, she coldly answered his question. Am I supposed to be happy to see you? Hey, what's with that attitude? It's been a long time since we last met. She raised an eyebrow, looking at him carelessly. You seem to be a bit rude, don't you? So what? Am I supposed to jump for joy when I see you? Jehoen, sitting on the side, smiled silently. Wow, she's still so fierce. He pretended to stroke his hair to show off his sparkling gold watch. I'm quite popular these days. He smugly showed off. Haven't you heard the news that I'm working for a trading company? They pay me even more than I expected. Despite his bragging, she continued to eat heartily. Rumors have spread quite fast these days. Haven't you heard? Like I care. You're always showing off anyway. I've had enough of the drama surrounding him. Truly, a leopard cannot change its spots. Honestly, she didn't care about him at all. I never expected you to become a third-generation Chable anyway. Have you heard? but he was so persistent that it annoyed her. Hey, I'm asking you. I'm clearly talking about business deals. I heard. She glanced at him and said, the rumor about your company selling fake goods in China? That fatal exposure made his face turn red. That watch must be one of them, right? He was so extremely furious that his whole body trembled. But he still didn't let her off, smiling sinisterly and saying, yeah, that's right. But what about that guy from the medical college? He rubbed salt in her wound. Isn't Koku getting married soon? There's a rumor that he dumped you because he felt it was more beneficial to date the niece of a major company CEO, you know. Having achieved his goal of provoking her, he smirked. No matter how angry she was, he continued to poke at her, saying, isn't that right? Jin Young mocked. Didn't you say you were going to marry that doctor? I'm not the only one who remembers that, right? Subin sat silently and motionlessly. He gleefully slammed his hand on the table, laughing and saying, you're really arrogant, Shin Subin. Jehoen, sitting next to Subin, had been silently observing her all this time. He heard Jin Young's sarcastic remarks, but bragging like that is a bit too much. So, have you become Pinocchio now? Subin tightly gripped the fork in her hand, suppressing her anger. He pushed his luck and dug up the past. When you were in college, you weren't popular at all because you always locked yourself in the dorm. Jin Young burst into laughter as if he had hit the jackpot. He teased, isn't that right, Subin? But a rumor like that is quite a disadvantage for a woman, isn't it? The female colleagues sitting around whispered among themselves. The girl with highlights nervously patted the shoulder of the girl next to her and called out, what's wrong with her ex-boyfriend? Hey, do something. The other girl, scared and quietly crying, replied, sob, but what should I do? Seeing no reaction from Subin, he became annoyed, raising an eyebrow in challenge and asking, hey, honestly, it's just tit for tat, but how are you planning to get married now? Who will want to marry you? Jin Young continued to use insulting words against her. Don't make a fool of yourself when you don't even have any self-respect to begin with. He raised his voice in contempt and asked, you know what I mean, right? Subin was infuriated. She growled and scolded, that dog-bitten mouth of yours. Her hand tightened around the fork handle, intending to attack him to teach him a lesson. Jehoen noticed the situation worsening and quickly grabbed her arm holding the fork, advising, don't be too extreme. He glanced at her to reassure her, but didn't forget to mock Jin Young. You'll only make yourself tired. Just ignore the dog barking in your ear. Am I wrong? His words made her switch from anger to startlement. She couldn't believe he could say such things. Hearing this profound curse, he became dumbfounded. Then he got angry, frowned, and yelled, what? Jehoen glared at him in annoyance. He still didn't hold back and shouted loudly, dog barking? Do you know who I am? Jehoen replied indifferently, do I need to know? Seeing his contemptuous attitude startled him, forcing him to swallow his anger. His hand was currently gripping Subin's hand tightly, holding her back to prevent her from acting impulsively. Jehoen advised, just let it go. Jin Young, true to his nature, continued to laugh and tease her. Hey, have you forgotten your past? So this guy is your boyfriend? Subin was so angry that her face contorted, but she still tried to hold back. She wanted to curse at him. You lunatic. He added fuel to the fire, saying despicably, then congratulations on being so stupid again. Hearing his words, Jehoen remained as calm as before. He replied softly, we don't need to hear that from you. After saying that, he turned to look at her and called, Subin. His hand gently rubbed the back of her hand to soothe the anger in her heart. He smiled caringly and asked, are you upset? Jehoen showed affection towards her by constantly asking about her out of concern. Tell me where you want to go later, okay? Or should we go on a date somewhere and grab something to eat? This left Subin speechless with shock, unable to understand what the heck he was doing. No, why is he not stopping there? Jehoen enthusiastically whispered as if they were deeply in love. Oh well, how about we? You know what I mean? The colleagues around them whispered incessantly. Some even blushed in admiration and exclaimed, oh my. Meanwhile, Jiang, being ignored, got frustrated and called out to them, hey. Subin's whole body trembled with rage as she silently screamed, I can't take this anymore. Not being paid attention to, he became even more frantic. He stepped closer to her and shouted, what the hell do you think you're doing? Subin glanced at him with some anxiety when he was about to lunge and grab her shoulder, yelling, you, which scared her. Someone was faster and pulled her back to dodge the attack. This person was none other than Jehoen. With one arm, he pulled her into his embrace to protect her, and with the other hand, he grabbed a glass of water from the table. He quickly splashed the glass of water straight into Jiang's face. He flinched and cried out, arg. He taught him a lesson. People must have their limits. You know, He still hadn't recovered from being splashed. Water was dripping from his hair and face down to his clothes. Suddenly, two waiters appeared and firmly pinned his arms, politely saying, "Sir, you cannot behave like this here." He put the glass down on the table and, along with Subin, looked at Jiyoung's pathetic state in front of them. He didn't forget to warn him, so toned down the arrogance. His face contorted in anger as he ground his teeth and cursed. "What? You bastard!" The waiters dragged him away and demanded, "Please leave, sir." Jiyoung stubbornly continued to make a scene, swearing, "You son of a BTCH, how dare you? Why are you making me leave when that bastard was the one who threw water in my face?" He was dragged away in front of the crowd, resisting with all his might. "Let me go, do you hear me? You guys!" Although he was no longer in sight, the incessant noise outside could still be heard. The female colleagues rushed over to check on her. "Are you okay, Subin?" Someone even panicked and cried out, "Oh my God!" The bodyguard accompanying Jihoon also approached and asked worriedly, "Director, are you all right?" He just waved his hand, signaling that it was nothing, and dismissed them. The girls took turns gossiping. "That guy really has a problem. What was he thinking doing that? Are you okay?" Making Subin feel a bit awkward, she hesitantly replied, "Ah, yes." Suddenly, Jihoon reached out his arm to support her back. Seeing their intimate gesture, the crowd became curious. "But I mean," the girls blushed, covering their mouths and giggling as they teased. "Were you two just lovey-dovey with each other?" She quickly retorted, "Not at all." Subin was so angry she felt like she was going to emit black smoke. She snapped back, "Lovey-dovey with what? No way." What was she saying? In her heart, she thought, "We're more like cats and dogs." Seeing that Jihoon didn't react to the teasing, they pressed on with their questions. "I don't think so, right, sir?" Hearing that, Subin turned to stare at him, her mouth wide open. She was so angry she was speechless, stammering, "Hey, what is wrong with you?" Seeing him acting so gently and affectionately towards her, giving what could be called a smile worth 10 doses of love. His male lead aura radiated everywhere, and she just wanted to curse. "Smile in my ass. Why are you suddenly acting crazy?" She went frantic, lunging to grab Jihoon's collar, gritting her teeth and yelling, "Are you going to put that face away or what?" He still played dumb, speaking vaguely. The truth is, looking at the group of people sitting around them in front, he bluntly declared, "I'm the one chasing after her." The whole crowd blushed in embarrassment, shouting in unison, "Oh my gosh, good heavens." The embarrassed women patted Subin on the shoulder and whispered like a congratulation, "You little devil, I knew it all along. Oh my goodness, and here you were hiding it all this time." Her whole body trembled from this injustice, and she tried to explain, No, it's not like that." But nobody bothered to listen. They even showed envy and told her. "So that's why that Jiyoung guy was going crazy with jealousy, huh?" My heart. She used every ounce of her strength to clear her name. "No, don't listen to him. He's completely lying." Right at that moment, Jae-jun spoke up again like a lover advising her. "Stop denying it, Subin. Didn't I come to see you the other day to propose?" He smiled warmly, looking at her with eyes full of love. Subin pointed her finger at him, so shocked she was speechless. "Hey you," the women behind her shyly exclaimed. "Oh my." He grabbed her pointing finger and gently comforted her. "I promise I will cherish you and treat you like a princess." Then he held her hand and softly confessed his feelings. "So, don't hesitate anymore and fall into my arms." The group of people continued to squeal in this atmosphere full of PDA. "Oh my God, why are you so sweet? You two look so good together. Oh my heart." He suddenly guided her away from her seat and said, "Let's get out of here." They continued to exclaim, "Oh my God." Outside the room, melodious music was playing, and the singing for a ballroom dance went shalala, shalala. As soon as they got outside, Subin's face turned red with embarrassment, and she yelled loudly, "Hey, are you crazy? Why did you suddenly spout nonsense in front of my friends?" Hearing that, Jae-jun clicked his tongue. TSK. He pointed his finger at the middle of her forehead and said, "You." He pushed her back and scolded, still as foolish as ever even when I stepped in to help. Being pushed unexpectedly, she panicked and cried out, "Ack," but didn't forget to scold him back. "Who needs your help anyway?" He looked at her seriously and asked, "Can you really say that?" She asked back in surprise, "What?" Suddenly, her look at this moment reminded him of the past. He remembered the moment everyone alienated him. The eyes of those children, the eyes that judged me. Those ice-cold eyes. He's a money thief. Remembering this, he suddenly asked her an abrupt question. "Did I ask for your help back then?" This question made Subin nervously swallow a gulp of saliva. Gulp. She looked at him for a moment and then suddenly blurted out, "Right?" She covered her ears with her hands, and angrily yelled, "Just keep your mouth shut, please." She crossed her arms and bluntly exposed him. "You didn't do that just to help me, did you?" Not hearing an answer from him, she impatiently asked again, "Well, tell me, you didn't plan to do that to help me, did you?" Jaejun didn't answer, but asked her back. "What?" Subin stared at him and loudly asserted, "You did that to make them believe we are getting married. And also, with my friends, who do you think you are?" Hearing that, he tiredly let out a few sounds as an admission. He stroked his chin, praising and teasing her at the same time. "Well, seems like you've finally gotten a bit smarter, huh?" Jaejun turned his face away and superficially added another compliment. "That's better." His action made her angry, and she scolded. "Hey, are you deaf?" She raised her fists, waving them back and forth to threaten him. "Did you hear my question? Why did you suddenly tell them we're fooling around with each other?" He gently dodged. Suddenly, Subin's heel slipped, and she panicked and cried out, "Hey!" Her whole body stumbled unsteadily, and she startledly screamed loudly. Jaejun quickly reached out his hand, ready to catch her. When she closed her eyes, instinctively preparing for the fall, his hand caught her elbow, saving her from the fall. Subin looked at him in astonishment and a bit of embarrassment while he teased. "TSK, seems like it's a good thing I'm here, isn't it?" He helped her up and let go of her hand, not forgetting to poke fun at her, or else that empty head of yours would have kissed the floor. Hearing this, she trembled with anger and grumpily scolded, "What, are you tired of living?" Jaejun waved his hand, turned around, and walked away, ordering, "Let's go find something to eat first." She was extremely furious at his insolent attitude and called him back with a gruff voice. "Hey!" Seeing him ignore her anger, Subin was so mad she clenched her fists, wanting to hit him a few times, muttering, "I've gotten smarter? It's a good thing you're here. Worry about your own life first." In her heart, she thought to herself, "Don't anyone stop me. I have to punch him." After her bout of anger, she remembered the reunion with her old friends at a friend's wedding, where she happily chatted with them. She pondered, "Well, it's true that I don't see them often, but I can't avoid them forever." Subin reassured herself, "Fine, what's done is done anyway." Suddenly, a voice calling out interrupted her train of thought. "Hey!" It turned out to be Jaejun. Not seeing her follow along, he had come back to look for her. He approached, looking annoyed at having to wait, and asked, "Why are you just standing there?" He made a suggestion, "Let's go find something to eat and then talk." Hearing that, Subin let out a scoff. Her attitude took Jaejun by surprise a bit, and she asked him in a cold voice, "Eat?" She tucked her hair behind her ear and questioned, "Do you think I'll just nod in agreement if you treat me to a meal?" This question made him ponder for a long while. He suddenly called her name. "Shin Subin." He looked at her unblinkingly and asked bluntly, "Do you know how complicated you are?" This left her stunned. Jaejun brought up an incident from the past, like that time you gave me the chocolate milk carton. Subin, feeling clueless, unconsciously said, "Huh." He turned around to leave again, his voice softening to soothe her. "I didn't know that just sitting down for a meal together would make you hesitate so much." He took a few steps, then turned his head back and waved his hand, offering an alternative. "If that bothers you, grabbing a drink is fine too. Whatever you want to drink, it's my treat." Her mind had been in a chaotic swirl of thoughts all this time, and she only snapped out of it when he was about to walk out of sight. Wait, she remembered the chocolate milk carton. That time, she had asked him, "Do you want to drink this?" That was when they were in elementary school. After the lunch break, she didn't see him eat anything, so she worriedly brought the milk carton over to check on him. "You haven't eaten anything for lunch. Aren't you hungry?" Returning to the present, Subin's face looked slightly sad. Her hands clenched tight. She thought to herself, "What about that milk carton? I'm very grateful for what you did and accepted it. So what if I'm being a bit overly sensitive?" At that time, Subin was just a little girl who wanted to care for him as a friend, so she ran to his desk and did that without thinking much. She felt a bit aggrieved and thought, "We've been like that since we were kids." Suddenly, his voice rang out again. "I'm very busy, startling her back to reality. Jaejun glanced at her, showing impatience, and raised an eyebrow, demanding, "So can you hurry up your steps?" She looked in the direction he had just left, lost in thought. "I remember that was during elementary school." Subin walked after him. Her high heels made a clacking sound as they hit the tiled floor. She sighed wearily. All right, coming." She walked while looking at his back. She secretly thought, "But when he raises his eyebrow, he looks really good. I hate to admit it, but he's still freaking handsome. There's not much to worry about anyway." Her heart was in a tangle with chaotic thoughts, but truly, deep down, I have thousands of different emotions. I should thank him for helping me with that Jin Young guy. Actually, I was quite surprised too. I felt grateful, but just couldn't say it. Looking at the person in front of her, it was Jae-jun, someone who could be considered close to her, yet made Soo-bin harbor many difficult questions in her heart. Why can't I say thank you for what he did? The things I couldn't understand back then have gradually become clearer as I grew up. Her face became colder and more distant than ever. Soo-bin tightly gripped her handbag strap, deciding to just cross the bridge when she comes to it. She brushed aside her chaotic thoughts. She quickened her pace. Stepping closer to him, she complained a bit. Hey, don't go to some cheap place. I want to go to a luxury spot. Jae-jun indulgently replied to her with a few words. All right. They went out to the parking lot and stood in front of a shiny, expensive car. As soon as they got inside the car, with him in the driver's seat and her sitting next to him, Soo-bin secretly admired. Wow, I'll see it done. Neither of them had chosen a place to dine yet, so he took the initiative to ask for her opinion. What do you want to eat? She acted polite and replied, You choose. It's your treat anyway. Hearing that, he murmured in thought. Jae-jun suggested. Let's go eat meat? You've always liked meat. Feeling satisfied, she muttered. Sure. The car zoomed down the road. Thinking about this meal, Soo-bin already felt happy. She excitedly thought, those expensive places? Just wait and see. You'll have to order a ton of beef, hee. On the way to the meat restaurant, Jae-jun's phone rang. He fumbled to find his phone. The screen displayed the incoming caller as his grandfather. He quickly connected his earpiece to the phone and answered. Yes, Grandpa, go ahead. His grandfather's voice asked urgently. Where are you? By this time, they had reached an intersection with a traffic light. He replied, in Seoul. Is something wrong, Grandpa? His grandfather informed him. Your grandmother just fainted. Hearing this emergency news made Jae-jun panic. Immediately, he honked the horn and made a U-turn. The car turned around as quick as lightning, startling Soo-bin into screaming. Oh my lord. Her face darkened, and she angrily scolded. Hey, what are you doing? Why did you suddenly change direction so abruptly? Seeing his hands clenched tightly into fists, she got scared and immediately fell silent. She leaned closer to him and asked worriedly, What's wrong with your face? Did something happen? Where are we going? Jae-jun suppressed his emotions, his voice becoming weak. My grandmother just fainted. Soo-bin looked at him in astonishment, speechless. He also remained silent. His hair fell over his face, hiding his expression. He stepped on the gas pedal harder, steering the car to zoom swiftly down the road. Soo-bin was immersed in memories of the past. She remembered that she had never met his grandmother, but she knew that she was the one behind the money loan he had given her back then. I've always wanted to say thank you to her if I had the chance. Indeed, that time he had brought her to meet his grandmother and introduced her. She is my secretary. Remembering her benefactor, she anxiously urged, then you should hurry up. Following her urging, he hurriedly pressed hard on the gas pedal, rushing the car to the hospital. Although she had mentally prepared herself, she was still terrified and screamed, Let's get there fast, oh my God. In her heart, she thought, but perhaps it's already too late. At the hospital, it was currently early afternoon. The two of them managed to reach his grandmother's hospital room. Jae-jun sat worriedly by the hospital bed, not taking his eyes off her. Meanwhile, his grandfather was discussing her medical condition with the doctor. The old woman was weak, her eyes heavily cracking open. Has she regained consciousness? Seeing that his grandmother had woken up, Jae-jun hurriedly approached, touched her forehead, and asked, Have you regained consciousness? The old woman replied tiredly, Yes. Seeing the anxiety in him, she gently comforted, I made you worry. Hearing his grandmother's voice in his ear made him choke up with emotion and call out, Grandma. Jae-jun's heart tightened. He heavily said to her, Please don't leave me behind. The beating in his chest pounded intensely and continuously, making him feel as if his heart had just stopped beating. The old woman looked at him warmly. Her weak, wrinkled hand gently patted his hand as a word of reassurance. She smiled and coaxed, How could I leave you behind? I will overcome this battle. It's just a little illness. It's nothing. Soo-bin, who had accompanied him to the hospital room door earlier, stood outside waiting. She anxiously gripped her bag strap, as was her habit whenever she was tense. She fell into a state of not knowing whether to laugh or cry, thinking in a panic. What should I do? In this situation, if I had known things would turn out like this, I should have just stayed in the car. From inside the hospital room came the sound of the old man choking back tears. Cough, cough. Why are these tears? I'll go to the restroom for a bit. Soo-bin leaned against the door outside and pondered. I can't just barge in and say thank you for the money you lent me before. She struggled with her own thoughts, not knowing what the right thing to do was. Out of options, Subin sneaked a peek inside to observe the situation. The old man had reached the door. The two bumped into each other, and she exclaimed in surprise. "Ah?" He took off his glasses, wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes, and asked kindly, "Who are you? Did you come here to visit her?" Subin shyly bowed her head and greeted politely, "Good afternoon. I am." The old man pushed up his glasses and stared at her, making her sweat with fear, and she stammered, "I am Jaejin's friend." Seeing the old man's serious attitude, she was frightened. She thought, "What? Did I say something wrong?" He suddenly grabbed her hand and exclaimed joyfully, "So you are Jaejin's girlfriend? Oh my, did you come to check on her?" Subin panicked at the misunderstanding of their relationship and subconsciously replied, "Excuse me?" The old man held her hand and pulled her into the hospital room, asking, "You were with him when he got the call earlier, so he brought you along. Am I right?" She foolishly followed him and, upon hearing his question, hurriedly answered, "Ah, yes." Approaching the hospital bed, he called out cheerfully, "Honey, look." Seeing Subin being dragged in by him, Jaejun was horrified. Huh? As for her, she just wanted to swear. Damn it. The old man introduced her to the old woman. "This beautiful girl is Jaejun's girlfriend." She was surprised by his words. Hearing that, he hurriedly stood up and went to stop him. "Grandpa, wait," making him look at him in confusion. Over here, Subin was acting coy and shy like a blooming flower. She felt proud. Oh wow, it feels so good to be praised as beautiful for the first time. Jaejun hesitated, not knowing how to clarify their relationship. The old woman lying on the hospital bed spoke up, breaking the awkward atmosphere. "Jaejun's girlfriend?" She used her strength to sit up, looked at Subin, and gently called her. "Why did you come here? Come here quickly." Still in shock, she vaguely replied, "Ah." Her hand with the 4-needle suddenly slipped off the edge of the bed, and the old woman cried out in panic. Oh my! Her body lost its balance and swayed, about to fall off the bed. The old man called out in panic, "Honey." At the same time, Jaejun also rushed over in fear and called, "Grandma." Subin reacted quickly, reaching forward and using her arms for support. Her arms caught the old woman's body. The old woman startled and cried out reflexively, "Oops." She anxiously asked about her condition. "Are you okay?" After that near fall, everyone became closer to each other. Subin sat next to her, smiling warmly. She secretly thought the atmosphere has also gotten better accordingly. The old woman also happily let out a few laughs and then praised enthusiastically, my. She looked at the girl in front of her with satisfaction, patting the back of her hand and chatting intimately. Such a beautiful person could become Jaejin's girlfriend, indeed. "What is your name?" Subin, still a bit shy, replied, "I am Shin Subin." She continued to praise her endlessly. "Even your name is pretty." The old woman excitedly inquired about their story. "How long have you known him?" She smiled awkwardly and hesitantly replied, "Have known each other since elementary school." The old woman patted her hand a few more times as a comfort and asked curiously, "Oh my, that long? A beautiful girl like you could be his girlfriend." This question made Subin fall silent, not knowing what to say. An indescribable feeling arose in her heart. Beautiful? I think that's too much. It's been so long since anyone pampered me like this. It's also the first time I can feel affection from someone else's eyes. She remembered her past relationship. Her ex-boyfriend's family had torn her heart apart. They didn't like what I had, even though we had planned to get married. That painful separation is probably one of the reasons I don't want to get married anymore. Is it because I remember that terrible past that my heart hurts so much? The old woman sincerely said, "It is very nice to meet you." Subin embarrassedly urged, "Hee, then please get well soon." Sejun sat on the side, quietly observing their conversation, his eyes never leaving her. He silently calculated. Choosing Shin Subin was indeed the right decision. After his grandmother's health stabilized, the two left. It was now late afternoon, right at rush hour, with the endless honking of cars. Sitting in the car, the two didn't know what to say. It was so quiet that only the sound of the car engine could be heard. Looking at his stern face, Subin felt the atmosphere seems to have gotten more serious. She felt her body was a bit weird. Her chest felt strange. Subin lowered her head and called out softly, "Hey, do you want to eat gopchang?" The gopchang she mentioned was grilled intestines. "I know a place nearby." They went to a grilled intestines restaurant. As soon as they went inside and sat down, Subin spoke up to order, "Ma'am, gopchang and a bottle of soju here, please." Sejun proactively poured the alcohol, the sound of the liquor flowing into the glass making a trickling noise. He took a sip first, then put the glass down and glanced at the girl in front of him. He sternly proposed to her again. Shin Subin, think it over carefully. Sejun curiously asked her the reason why she rejected him. If you don't think marriage is a wrong choice, then why did you refuse my proposal? She evaded the question and changed the subject. I am very sorry for what your grandmother has to go through. He reminded, the money you borrowed, it wasn't mine. Subin's face showed a hint of sadness as she nodded to show she understood. He started talking about the past, about that money. At that time, he didn't know who to rely on, so he went to his grandmother. When she saw him looking sad, she gently called, my grandson. She gently patted his head and whispered, is something bothering you? He stammered, Grandma, actually. She smiled reassuringly. I'm listening. That day, he took a risk to borrow money from his grandmother to help her, and there was one thing he kept hidden. Of course, I couldn't tell the whole truth. He told his grandmother, a friend who helped me before is currently facing difficulties. Sejun expressed his worry. I want to help her, but I don't know what to do. Actually, in his heart he thought, because I didn't originally intend to help her sincerely. He didn't expect that she would agree and carefully instruct. Shoo, then don't tell your parents. This will be a secret between us, okay? Back to the present, he recounted, my grandmother gave it without letting the family know. Hearing his story, Subin felt a bit awkward. They didn't know. He clearly explained everything. More accurately, I borrowed the money from my grandmother. He glanced at her, silently thinking, I didn't intend to do this just to get someone else's sympathy. Seeing her awkward expression, he had to admit, but what other choice was there? That's just how she is. Subin remembered the past. She recalled the dilapidated makeshift house sheltered under a tent where she lived as a child. When she was helped by his grandmother, she felt as if the floor where she was standing at that time began to flood with water. She wanted to collapse and cry by her hospital bed because she was the benefactor who saved her life. When visiting her, seeing that warm smile, she always reminded herself to remember, I will always be grateful to his grandmother, the one who reached out to me during my difficult times. She also remembered when the grandmother gave her loving looks and affectionate pats. Back to reality, Subin sighed and decided, but no matter how simple-minded I am, I'm not the type to go around deceiving everyone with a fake marriage. She pondered, getting married, is this really the only way? She spoke up to probe his thoughts. So, all you need is a wedding, huh? It's not that simple, you know? Sejun decisively told the truth. My father won't take back what he said. Her hands intertwined and rubbed against each other, showing her hesitation. He bluntly revealed everything to make her understand. He doesn't step foot anywhere other than his office and home, except in emergencies. He also won't attend any events. Seeing him pour out all the thoughts in his heart, she felt as if Ji Sejun was standing on his own precipice. Sejun looked up at her and hesitantly said, so. He looked straight into her eyes and sincerely expressed, all I want is for you to be able to pay off that debt. He remembered memories from when he was a child. He lived in a luxurious home, but full of hatred. He realized that he was a child no one expected to be born. In his memories, every day his grandfather would take out his anger toward his mother by drinking and beating him. After a while, he was taken away by his mother to leave that house. Unfortunately, even when he was brought along by his mother to her new family, living in a house many times larger, with no shortage of people coming and going, he still suffered greatly because no one cared about his presence except his grandmother. During a family gathering, his mother introduced, this is the eldest child of our family. Even though he was present there, no one introduced or noticed him, not even his mother. She presented the child with her new husband to the family. Go ahead and say hello, Leon. At that time, he could only stand silently in a corner and watch, carrying resentment, suppressing it by clenching his hands to hide his inner feelings. He had asked himself many times, I've spent almost my entire life wondering if I should open up to anyone. At times like that, his grandmother would come, hold his hand, and advise, Sejun, find someone to love and live a happy life. Even while lying on her hospital bed, she still whispered in his ear to advise, I hope you will meet a girl who will cherish you with her whole life. Every time she expressed her wish, she would smile and call him, my beloved grandson, my last wish is just to see you get married. Facing Subin in the present, he expressed his feelings for his grandmother. I don't want her to leave this world with her wish unfulfilled. She rested her chin on her hand, stared at him, and replied, anyway. She didn't continue, but curiously asked him instead, maybe your grandmother is everything to you, right? Sejun asked back in surprise. What do you mean? She had to brush it off. Well, just maybe. Subin took a sip of her wine, slowly analyzing. Even though you said things aren't like that, well. She looked straight at him and bluntly spoke her thoughts about him. Why do I get the feeling that you want to take all the inheritance and everything your father has? She kept her eyes fixed on him and pondered. Is it just me? No wonder you're so different from everyone else. No, maybe even much worse than others. She tapped her fingers on the glass, interrogating him like a criminal. Now be honest. Subin poured herself another glass of wine and interrogated, what's your real name? Sejun answered seriously, I've told you everything. He compared himself. I'm just like a snail that can't come out of its shell. I'm not a member of that family. She listened attentively to his words. His expression worsened, avoiding her gaze as he said, my father doesn't give me any chance to achieve anything. He glanced into space unconsciously to avoid the embarrassment of stating the cause of the matter. He can still control me if he wants to, so I promised to leave South Korea after inheriting the fortune. Sejun tried to persuade, it's the same for you, having a new life. Subin, now dizzy from the alcohol, boldly asked point blank, so basically we are accomplices, right? She pointed straight at him, exposing his crime. You're trying to steal the whole house, huh? He just let out a breath and replied, that's not a bad comparison. In her drunkenness, her face became flushed, and she unconsciously called his name. Seyun, Seyun. Subin had collapsed on the table, but kept calling him continuously, Ji Sejun, Ji Sejun. He looked at the drunk girl in front of him and hesitantly asked, what is it? She only responded by calling him Ji Sejun. He started to look annoyed and snapped, say what you want. Subin's voice answered brokenly in her drunken state, it's just. She held her head and naturally blurted out, you must have suffered a lot. She closed her eyes, lying collapsed on the table, and muttered, I really want to comfort you, but I'm afraid you'll get mad if I do. In the quiet space, only her whispering voice remained. I can't comfort you anyway. Do you think I look down on you? Sejun's face showed no expression. He just asked, you want to comfort me? He demanded in annoyance. Then don't just space out there and accept my request. Hearing him raise his voice like that, Subin looked up at him and heard him say again, it will help both of us. She expressed her thoughts about him. That could be considered a word of comfort. I know you're not that bad-hearted. On the contrary, he smirked. Is that so? My condolences because you got the wrong person. Subin propped her head on her hand, leaning sideways, her voice a bit resentful. Do you still hate me that much? Sejun quickly answered her, I don't know. Looking at the face of the person in front of her, seeing his tone of voice when talking to her, she pretended to scold. Wow, you really are an archenemy, you meanie. He unhappily repeated her words. Don't you meanie me. Sejun coldly exposed her way of living. You only need someone who can pay to cover your living expenses. Subin's legs swung gently as a habit when she was drunk. He continued to use cold words toward her. That's why I chose you, and the moment you fall for me, you will lose your value. Not only was Subin not angry, but she also calmly asked him, then what do you plan to do if I become useless? She buried her face in the table, sighed, and said, throw me away? He didn't hide it but told her straight. If that's what you want to know, I only have one answer for after you outlive your usefulness. The sound of tables and chairs shifting slightly rang out along with Jaejun's voice. Of course, I will abandon you. He stood up, placed a bill on the table, slid it in front of her, and said decisively, there's no reason left to keep you around. Subin, now deep in her drunkenness, closed her eyes and breathed evenly as if she were sleeping. He turned around, preparing to leave, not forgetting to instruct her, catch a cab home yourself. We'll talk more after you sober up. She remained motionless in her spot, making the mumbled sounds of a drunkard. He walked away, but still spoke up. I'll make sure you reconsider that choice. Jaejun left. He firmly stated, don't forget that I'm not the only one struggling with this life. Hearing his retreating footsteps, Subin groggily woke up. She looked at the 50,000 won bill on the table and angrily scolded. What a jerk. How could he just abandon a woman like this? She slammed the table and stood up, continuing to scold him. Heartless jerk. The sky had grown dark. Subin walked to the bus, stopped to wait for the bus. When she got on the bus, she stood in a corner, yawning repeatedly out of exhaustion. Looking at her own reflection on the bus window, she pondered, wow, really? She remembered how he had put the money in front of her earlier and told her, catch a cab home. Subin unconsciously tightened her grip on the bag containing that 50,000 won bill. Under the dark night sky, the bus moved slowly. Standing on the bus, she had to accept the truth about her hard life. This is reality, after all. In the staff break room, Subin sat deep in thought about the recent issues. First, she thought about what Jae-jun had said to her. You only need someone who can pay to cover your living expenses. That's why I chose you. Subin rested her chin on her hand, engrossed in thoughts of him. I keep thinking about Jae-jun since yesterday. On the paper were her notes. 11 years ago, we no longer had a home, paying hospital bills. 8 years ago, try to survive day by day. Then Subin circled the words 100 million won on the paper. Her face looked sad. Subin couldn't help but feel disappointed in herself. In 8 years, and I have nothing in my hands. I can't believe I even had to spend all those savings. Subin sat blankly looking at the paper with a myriad of stray thoughts in her head. I spent my entire youth eating, buying clothes, and buying everything I wanted. Subin suddenly felt tired and told herself, and I also have to realize how huge that debt is. Subin couldn't forget Jae-jun's words. I've waited for you for 10 years. The heavy rain from that day suddenly flashed through her mind with the image of Jae-jun standing in the cold rain. He coldly asked her, and yet you still say you will find a way to pay off the debt? Subin frowned and sighed in distress. It seems like he has no intention of understanding my situation either. This is the reality we are living in after all. Her hand holding the pen continued to tap on the paper. Subin muttered softly, even if I postpone paying off that debt. She posed a hypothesis and automatically extinguished it. If my family manages to pay off that debt, we'll still have to live a bleak life with no end. Subin bit her pen, struggling in a chaotic mess of thoughts. In the case of paying the debt with my salary, I'd have to find 2 or 3 more jobs to manage. Finally, she bit the pen tightly, sighed in exhaustion, and realized, in that way, marriage will forever be just an illusion for me. She sat on the chair with her arms crossed, her tired body leaning backward. Her eyes closed as she pondered inwardly. No one can bear the burden of debt. Just trying to survive day by day is already too exhausting. Subin still wished she could wear a wedding dress on the big day of her life. So she thought, even if I covet money and wealth, I don't want to sell myself out for it. She opened her eyes, slowly looked up at the ceiling, and asked herself, does he think I'm that weak? She tapped her foot and pouted, in your dreams will I marry you. I wonder if I'm just satisfying myself like this. The image of Jae-jun politely holding out his hand to her with a voice full of temptation appeared. Just 1 year, you just need to turn a blind eye for that 1 year. He firmly said, I guarantee we will all be happy. Subin wondered whether she should take his hand or not. The image of her parents suddenly appeared to her mind. Then my parents won't have to suffer anymore. Suddenly, a knock on the door and a loud call startled her. Miss Subin, a colleague reminded her, get ready for your shift. She quickly calmed down and said, ah yes. In the luxurious and elegant restaurant space, Subin returned to being a busy person at work. Time passed, and it was finally time to get off work. She waved goodbye to her colleagues and left. Subin got on the familiar bus. As soon as the bus arrived at the stop, she yawned repeatedly and stepped off. She walked briskly on the deserted street. Subin's face looking tired. I just want to go home and take a nap right away. Luckily, tomorrow is a holiday. I'm going to sleep in and eat to my heart's content. Just as Subin thought of this, a figure suddenly appeared walking behind her. The person called softly Subin, making her, who was sleepy, wide awake again. Subin slowly turned her head, and the person continued, it's been a while, hasn't it? That familiar face and voice belonged exactly to her ex-boyfriend. Gunho looked at her with a gentle smile. How have you been lately? Right after speaking, he immediately stepped forward and closed in on her, constantly calling her sweetly, Subin, which gave her goosebumps. Unable to stand it anymore, Subin immediately yelled at him, don't. The expression on her face clearly showed her annoyance as she threatened him, if you dare to take one more step. But before she could finish her sentence, Gunho unexpectedly raised his hand. He gently patted her hair while speaking in a pitiful voice, I'm sorry. Gunho gently patted her head. I know you'd be surprised to see me. Subin stood motionless, staring at him. After we broke up, I had to think about how to react if I ever met him again. Thinking this, she decisively yanked her hand away from his. Subin shouted loudly, don't touch me. Gunho was stunned by her. Now that she met Gunho again, she realized that all of it was useless. Subin's eyes were sharp, and she asked in frustration, why are you here? She asked bluntly, "What do you want?" Faced with her unpleasant attitude, Gunho's eyes widened in bewilderment. The two stood in silence, looking into each other's eyes. Subin suddenly felt very annoyed. How embarrassing. I promised myself that I wouldn't be bothered by any man anymore. Gunho looked at her intently, then put on a sorrowful expression. Where should I start? What should I do first to make you feel better? Hearing him, Subin scoffed. If I tell you, will you do it? Gunho nodded firmly. I will try. Subin crossed her arms, looked straight into his eyes, and smiled mockingly, then get out of my sight. Unfortunately, Gunho was unaffected by her. He said sadly, you can hit me as much as you like, as long as you want to. Hearing that, Subin was so furious, she could have fumed. She snapped back, you think I'm like you? That I go around hurting people? Gunho hemmed and hawed, then turned it around on her. Is that why you're still angry? His expression made Subin feel utterly deflated. She thought to herself, it's been years since we met, and in the end, nothing has changed at all. Subin frowned and bit out each word. Even if you do change, don't expect me to forgive you. So get lost. The moment she finished, her phone suddenly rang. She pulled it out and checked. It was an unknown number. If he weren't here, she wouldn't have answered. Thinking that, she decisively pressed to pick up hello. From the other end came the low, husky voice of a man. It's me. After a brief moment of surprise, Subin stammered, oh. She thought for a second, then put on a sweet voice into the phone. Goodness, why are you even calling me? Didn't I already tell you to just rest? Gunho furrowed his brows and looked at her curiously. The caller was none other than Jae-jun. He raised an eyebrow in surprise when he heard her call him honey. Subin spoke sweetly into the phone while shooting Gunho a sarcastic smile. You miss me that much? Darkness had settled over the bustling city. On a small street corner, the man named Gunho stood there dumbfounded, listening to Subin speak triumphantly into the phone. Honey, you miss me that much? She said, deliberately smirking at Gunho as she spoke. In that brief moment, Subin truly had no idea what she was doing. She cursed under her breath, damn. The words that had just come out of her mouth gave her goosebumps. She could not believe she had just impulsively called Jae-jun honey. Jae-jun couldn't believe his ears either. He asked back over the phone whether this was really Subin's number. Who could have seen that coming? Subin thought, then kept playing the role of his girlfriend. She put on her sweetest voice and said, why are you calling me? I already told you to rest, didn't I? You miss me that much? Jae-jun had no idea what was going on and cursed at her. Are you out of your mind? She cheerfully replied, nope, of course not. I miss you too, baby. His voice turned alarmed. Have you lost it? Subin paid him no mind and kept up the act. Where are you right now, honey? With no other option, Jae-jun sighed and answered, I haven't gone home yet. I'm near your mom's shop. Hearing that, she immediately panicked. Why on earth is he at her mom's place? Under Gunho's suspicious gaze, Subin cleared her throat and feigned irritation. I'm at the bus stop right now. She pressed her lips together, her voice urgent, as if signaling to Jae-jun. Can you come pick me up? Gunho frowned as he listened to her wheedle and coo at her boyfriend. I've got some random guy keeping me here. Jae-jun, completely lost, grew impatient and asked her, what exactly are you trying to do? Subin didn't answer him, just said, hurry up. Faced with her strange behavior, Jae-jun said through gritted teeth, fine, let's just settle this once and for all. I'll be there in 5 minutes. A beep, the call ended. Subin raised an eyebrow and looked at Gunho with satisfaction. You heard that, didn't you? Do I need to explain anything further? Subin asked him, her tone exasperated. But Gunho said nothing at all. He just stood there in silence, staring at her. That made Subin furious, and she raised her voice. I think that's more than enough to draw a conclusion. So why are you still just standing there like a statue? And she thought to herself, why won't he just go already? She frowned, pressed her lips together, and held his gaze, then muttered to herself, I didn't prepare a plan B, did I? Absolutely none. Suddenly Subin grew anxious, thinking, if he actually runs into Jae-jun. Not letting that happen, she immediately shouted, haven't I told you to get out of here? All of a sudden, Gunho spoke up in a sad voice. Are you going to get married? Subin shrugged and replied calmly, of course. Did you think I'd fall apart after you left me? Her blunt attitude made Gunho sigh. He persisted and explained, no, I didn't think that. Then he said softly, you're a good person. The moment he finished, Subin clenched her fist tight. Unable to take it anymore, she turned and walked away decisively, her voice heavy with exhaustion. I'm not going to say thank you. So please, just leave, will you? Gunho panicked and tried to stop her. Wait. In 2 or 3 strides, he caught her hand and held it tight. Gunho said, his voice trembling, I want to be certain about this. He finished speaking, and that made Subin spin around sharply to look at him, stunned. Her eyes bore into Gunho's face. The problem was that they had known each other so long that they could each tell what the other was thinking. Gunho's sharp eyes stared at her fixedly, and Subin felt a stab of fear. If he met Jae-jun, he would see right through everything. Whenever Gunho suspected something, he would dig and dig until he got to the bottom of it. Thinking of that, Subin immediately screamed at him, "Let go of me." Suddenly a car horn blared loudly, and Gunho couldn't help but glance over. He narrowed his eyes and said quietly, "He's here. Your boyfriend." He said it just as the sound of hurried footsteps came pounding toward them. Subin's heart lurched, and she squeezed her eyes shut, silently chanting, "Please, not now, not now." Then Jae-jun suddenly spoke up in a warm, affectionate tone, as if calling out to his girlfriend. "Hey, babe." His voice right next to her ear made Subin's eyes go wide with shock. He smiled gently. "Have you been waiting long?" Then Jae-jun suddenly wrapped an arm around her waist, and she froze, looking up at him. He said to Gunho, his tone displeased, "Hey, you, go grab someone else's wrist, will you?" His hand gripped Gunho's hand, and at the same time Jae-jun said coolly, "And let this hand go, gently if you don't mind." Subin watched the scene unfolding right in front of her and genuinely wanted to blurt out, "This is unreal." On the other side, Gunho yanked his hand back in anger. In for a penny, in for a pound. Subin had no choice but to keep playing her part. She smiled pleasantly, pointed at Jae-jun, and introduced him. "See, he's my fiancé." Gunho narrowed his eyes, looking at the two of them with a hint of jealousy. Suddenly, Gunho got a phone call. He said politely, "One moment." Then he turned away to take it. "Yes, Professor." While Gunho was busy talking on the phone, Jae-jun smiled slyly, leaned down, and murmured into her ear, "Who's the fiancé now?" Gunho answered the professor. "Ah, yes, speaking." On the other side, Subin felt a chill run down her spine and blurted out, "What?" Jae-jun tightened his arm around her slender waist. "Answer me." He had no intention of letting her off the hook. Jae-jun pressed her. "Do you want to marry me or not?" Seeing that she wasn't answering, Jae-jun leaned in close to her cheek. "What's your answer?" The moment he finished, Subin exploded in anger. "You lunatic, are you having another episode? Don't you understand?" She struggled fiercely. "This is the most absurd situation of my entire life." On the other side, Gunho was still deep in his phone call. Meanwhile, Jae-jun, with that infuriating look on his face, winked at her. "But it's also the perfect moment to get you to walk down the aisle." Subin couldn't help but gape at him in disbelief. She looked into his deep, unreadable eyes and thought bitterly. That's right, Jae-jun is exactly this kind of schemer. Unaware that she was calling him a lunatic with an oversized ego in her head, Jae-jun relentlessly coaxed her. "Just marry me already." Subin glanced over at Gunho, then pursed her lips and thought to herself, "No surprises there, this conniving guy." Suddenly, Jae-jun pulled her firmly by the shoulder, his voice dropping low. "So you're not going to answer?" Subin clicked her tongue in frustration. "Are you seriously going to do this?" He shrugged nonchalantly and said, "I'll decide what to do next depending on how you answer." After hesitating for a moment, she said firmly, "And if I say no?" Jae-jun replied shamelessly, "Then I'm sorry. Who are you again, sweetheart?" She immediately shot back, "I dare you." Then he looked at her again. I don't think I know this person at all." Then he turned and shot Gunho a sharp look. "Isn't he a bit of a nuisance?" Jae-jun murmured into her ear, "Looks like he's your ex, doesn't he?" At the same moment, Gunho hung up and looked over at the two of them. Jae-jun didn't want to drag this out any longer. He said in a cold voice, "Answer me before I count to 3. As he counted, he slowly stroked her hair. 1. The number 2 came just as Gunho was walking toward them. And Subin stammered and cried out, "Wait." Subin's face scrunched up like a puffer fish. Jae-jun calmly counted to 3. Under the pressure, Subin was forced into agreeing. She cried out in complete helplessness, "You rotten bastard. Fine, fine. I'll marry you. I'll be your bride. Whoever said I was allowed to live a decent life?" The moment she finished, Jae-jun had gotten what he wanted. He leaned his head down onto her shoulder with satisfaction and said softly, "You're way too easy to convince." Then Jae-jun stroked her flowing hair. Right before Gunho's stunned eyes, Jae-jun said not a word and pressed a passionate kiss to Subin's lips. A moment later, Jae-jun gently pulled back from her lips. Subin stared at him wide-eyed, so dazed she stood frozen for several long seconds. And yet Jae-jun curled his lips into a small smile, as though nothing had happened at all, and said, "I love you, Subin." With a light pat, he draped his arm around her shoulder and said in a sweet voice, "Besides, you've probably been standing here long enough to be tired." He flashed a bright, gracious smile at Gunho, and said, "If you'll excuse us." He added, "We were supposed to meet at that corner cafe. At this rate, the fun will be long gone." Then he turned her away decisively and raised an eyebrow with a satisfied grin. "My girl loves the food there, you know." Leaving the man standing there in silent stillness, Jae-jun led Soo-bin away. Before going, he left him with one last remark: "Take your time getting home. Drive safe." At their usual barbecue restaurant, Soo-bin sat holding a glass of liquor, lost in her thoughts. Then Jae-jun suddenly said to her, "Why don't you pull yourself together?" Jae-jun casually picked up some food and placed it in her bowl. There, all done. She thought back to the moment he had kissed her, and Soo-bin couldn't hold back. Her cheeks puffed up with anger. Her hand clenched into a fist, and she suddenly threw a punch at him. Soo-bin shouted, "A righteous punch. I will absolutely settle the score for this." Jae-jun clicked his tongue and dodged, but still snapped at her irritably. "Look at you, same old habits." Soo-bin's face twisted as she cried out, "What did you just say?" Jae-jun put on a pitiful expression. "I did all of that just to help you, and this is how you repay me, treating me like a monster? Relax." She made no effort to hide her contempt. "A monster?" Jae-jun looked at her, baffled, as she fumed. "How could you just kiss someone like that?" The composed, handsome Jae-jun pursed his lips and said, "Kiss?" Soo-bin grabbed her own hair in frustration, wishing she could just punch him. Yeah, was that even necessary? Soo-bin thought back to when he had placed his hand over her lips and pretended to kiss her, and thought to herself, well, he didn't actually kiss me on the lips, at least. Jae-jun shrugged indifferently and said calmly, "So what?" To pull off the act, it had to be done. She muttered under her breath, cursing him. Then Jae-jun scoffed at her. "Are you dense?" He frowned and explained bluntly, "Do you think a man would just stand there and do nothing when someone comes to pick up his ex-girlfriend?" Jae-jun quietly recalled Gun-ho's face. "He was suspicious of you. He wouldn't have believed it so easily without seeing it with his own eyes." At that, Soo-bin fell into thought. She watched Jae-jun pour liquor into his glass. Jae-jun raised his eyebrows, sighed, and said, "Do you think everyone is stupid enough to believe your bullshit?" Her mood was deflated by his words. Soo-bin held the wine glass in her hand and fell into deep thought. I can't even argue back because he's not wrong. She pursed her lips, doubting life a little. Did we manage to get away with it? I don't know, but looking at him makes me feel weird. Soo-bin glared, staring at him intently. She gripped the glass tightly in her hand, trying to stay calm and not hit him. "Can someone lend me a paper bag to put over my head?" She was so tired she wanted to scream out loud. What am I supposed to do with this marriage? Thinking about it, she yelled loudly, "Auntie, another bottle of soju over here." A moment later, the table was filled with empty liquor bottles. Soo-bin was dead drunk. She giggled and yelled, "Bring it on." "Oh my, that's the 5th bottle, isn't it?" Soo-bin narrowed her eyes and giggled. She slurred, "Not even 3 bottles, just a little tipsy." Jae-jun sat opposite her in speechless silence. "She's acting up again." He was burying his head in his food when she suddenly asked, "By the way, Jae-jun, how did you know my phone number?" Jae-jun replied nonchalantly, "You've already agreed to marry me, so there's no need to know that." She dropped her jaw and frowned. "Are you crazy?" Soo-bin narrowed her eyes, looking at him suspiciously. "Seriously, did you secretly look up my info again?" Jae-jun blinked, acting innocent. "Because someone said they didn't want to talk, so I thought I had to contact you in the most polite way possible." Hearing his words, she panicked. He smirked, listening to her questioning him. "Since when did you know how to be polite to others? You're always cursing people out." Soo-bin propped her chin on her hand. Despite being drunk, she tried to look serious and wondered, "Hey Jae-jun, let me ask you." He nodded. She immediately asked, "Why me?" Jae-jun pouted and teased her. "Don't expect me to say, because it's you." In her daze, Soo-bin irritably stabbed her fork into the food and scolded, "You brat." She pointed her spoon in front of his face. "I don't freaking like you either, okay?" Jae-jun shrugged and replied, "The feeling is mutual." Then he said, thoughtfully, "To survive the battle, you are the most suitable breakup partner." She sneered, "Oh really?" Saying that, he took a sip of liquor. Then Jae-jun chuckled, "Bullying you is also fun, so living with you won't be boring." Hearing this, Soo-bin was so angry her lungs could explode. She slammed her hand on the table and cursed inwardly, "This bastard. I can't curse him, but he's a son of a bitch." Unable to take it anymore, Soo-bin stood up and yelled, "Hey, that's enough, I'm going home." Jae-jun frowned in surprise. "Going where?" "We're not done talking." Soo-bin picked up her handbag, turned around to leave, and said, "It's late, my mom will kill me." Suddenly, her eyes started spinning in circles. The image in front of her blurred, and Soo-bin collapsed heavily onto the ground. Before fainting, she saw Jae-jun's panicked face as he shouted, "Hey Shin Soo-bin, After that was a pitch-black darkness, like clouds fogging up her mind. Suddenly, she startled awake. Subin found herself lying on an unfamiliar bed. The sky was bright outside the window. Subin dazedly asked herself, "Where is this? Who am I? Why does the ceiling look so luxury?" Thinking of something, she unconsciously rolled her eyes. With her face still sleepy, she sharply turned her head to look next to her. Sunlight seeped through the crack of the door into the warm room. Jae-jun was lying naked face down beside her. He buried his head in the pillow, opening one tired eye, and his deep voice rang out, "Sleep well?" Subin dropped her jaw in shock, watching him let out a long yawn. She immediately lifted the blanket to check her clothes. Subin's face instantly darkened, and she screamed out, "This is surreal." Jae-jun raised his eyebrows in confusion and asked, "What?" Subin looked at him trembling. "Why are you stark naked?" Jae-jun buried his head in the pillow, calmly replying as if nothing happened, "I can't sleep well with clothes on." Saying that, she blinked at him, asking in an embarrassed voice, "Did we sleep together?" Subin stared at the tissue stuffed in Jae-jun's nose and asked, "What's that stuffed in your nose? A tissue? Did you get a nosebleed?" Jae-jun touched it. "Why are you so surprised?" She pointed at his face. "Was this too much for you? So you got a nosebleed?" He nodded nonchalantly. "Yeah." Then Jae-jun realized he was being teased by her. He asked himself, "Do I really have to answer that?" Subin instantly burst into delighted laughter. "I'm dying of laughter. Something's not right here." She laughed hysterically while he glared at her. Suddenly, Jae-jun smirked wickedly and asked, "You don't remember what happened last night, do you?" Subin didn't answer. She quietly pulled the blanket over her head. She decisively pulled his blanket and rolled herself up like a spring roll, ignoring his protest. "Hey, that's my blanket." Suddenly, Subin hugged the blanket, jumped up, and ran away. "Goodbye and see you never." Suddenly, she frowned and stopped in her tracks. Subin picked up the thing stuck to her foot to take a look. Holy crap, it was her leopard print bra. Instantly, she screamed loudly, "Why did you?" Jae-jun, still sleepy, looked at her and scolded, "You're really terrible." Subin hugged herself while scrambling to find her clothes. "Clothes? Where are my clothes? Where did you put them?" Jae-jun covered his mouth, trying to hold back his laughter, and replied, "Huh? What? Who knows?" She yelled furiously, "Aren't you going to let me leave?" He couldn't hold it in and burst out laughing. Then Jae-jun pointed behind him in the bathroom. Subin immediately dashed in and threatened him. "Just you wait." Jae-jun lay sprawled on the bed, indifferently watching her slam the door shut. In the bathroom, Subin held her face, which was as red as a tomato. Oh my God. She tossed and turned, so embarrassed she wanted to hide in a hole. "I'm going crazy, but something is definitely wrong here. What kind of face should I put on to meet him later?" As she was whining, she suddenly noticed her soaking wet clothes hanging on the door rack. Subin grabbed the wet shirt and put on like a fish taking to water. She wondered to herself, did he wash it last night? Let's just put it on for now. By himself? Subin narrowed her eyes, looking back and forth in the mirror. The shirt is a bit thin, but more importantly, I'm still wearing my underwear. Just looking in a mirror, Subin had to exclaim in embarrassment, "Holy shit, my makeup is all smudged." What on earth happened last night? As Subin buttoned her shirt, she recalled asking him earlier, "Did we sleep together?" He had answered nonchalantly, "Of course." That left her full of doubts. So he was telling the truth? "Let's wash my face first," she said, then hurriedly splashed water on her face. After washing, her face gradually became bright and clean. Next, out of extreme embarrassment, Subin stood hesitating by the door. "I don't want to go out. I'm glad nothing happened last night. But what if it really did? What if it's something I don't even want to imagine? What should I do?" Frustrated, she banged her head against the wooden door with a thud. In the end, it was all a mistake. Thinking of something, Subin determinedly clenched her fists. Right, it was just a mistake. Jae-jun must think so too. She took a deep breath and muttered, "So let's just forget everything." Then Subin grabbed the doorknob, about to open it. "Okay, let's just say that." The impatient, handsome guy Jae-jun crossed his arms and glared at her, his face clearly showing annoyance. "Is the bathroom yours?" He questioned her, "Why haven't you come out? I thought you fainted in there and broke your back." Seeing his bare upper body, Subin immediately stepped back. Her voice trembled as she replied, "Well, I'm still conscious. And if I did, it's because you carried me here." Before she could finish, Jae-jun pushed her aside. "Step aside, please." Subin lost her balance and tumbled to the ground. "Oh my God." She angrily yelled at him, "Hey." Jae-jun didn't care in the slightest. She watched him flick his shirt and resentfully cursed, "Damn bastard." Subin glared at him. "Son of a bitch, How do I make him disappear from my life? This hateful debt collector. Jae-jun turned his head, pointed at the door, and spoke coldly. Aren't you going to close the door? I have to shower now. Subin suddenly walked in. She frowned, looking at him seriously. I have something to say. Jae-jun paused. What? Remembering last night, Subin stammered again. That. She yelled last night. Before she could say anything, the handsome Jae-jun interrupted. Well, to be brief, you didn't do anything wrong to me anyway, right? Subin flinched at his words. Anything wrong? Jae-jun pointed to his swollen nose and demanded compensation from her. I was assaulted. Your compensation fee for my nose is 200K. After a moment of acknowledging the truth, Subin gritted her teeth and told herself, to save my pride, I have to sort out this mess. Thinking that, she clenched her fists and said in a low voice, I'll say this because maybe you don't fully understand me. No matter how drunk I was, last night was just a mistake. Jae-jun pulled the tissue out of his nose, narrowing his eyes as he listened to her explain, and even if we did the deed. Feeling guilty and not daring to look at him, she said softly, it was still just a mistake. Jae-jun suddenly took a step forward, standing close to her. Jae-jun looked at her bowed head. What? A mistake? He crossed his arms, pretending to be angry. Say that again. A mistake? Subin stayed silent, avoiding his dagger-like gaze. She wondered to herself, it's really strange. Even if I wasn't sober enough to control myself, it's both of our faults. But why do I feel like I'm the only one at fault here? Thinking that, she asked him directly, what do you want? She said firmly, I will pay you back in full, except for the things that are impossible to get. Jae-jun raised his eyebrows and said in a low, husky voice, you made a promise yesterday. Jae-jun deliberately lowered his voice to remind her, I thought you knew very well. His sharp, cold eyes stared intently at her. To repay me for rescuing you from your ex-boyfriend. As soon as he finished, Subin immediately frowned in shock. Hold on, I don't think I could talk about that right now. She stopped him. Wait, about that. She stealthily looked up to evaluate the expression on his face. But strange. It's as if Jae-jun is secretly laughing. The two were in a tug of war when suddenly, a phone ringtone unceremoniously interrupted them. Subin gave an awkward smile and said to Jae-jun, give me a few minutes to answer this call. Jae-jun shrugged, then I'll go take a shower. On the other side, Jae-jun fumbled through his jacket pockets. Found it. Jae-jun narrowed his eyes. Who's calling? Then she stared at the phone screen with a face scrunched up like dried jackfruit. Subin trembled as she looked at the name of Mrs. Jong on the phone, her heart pounding with fear. Mom, this is the end. Mrs. Jong's voice showed concern for her daughter. Subin, did you sleep over at Jisu's house last night? Subin stammered in reply, yes, Mom. Hearing her say that, Mrs. Jong nodded, relieved. I understand. I was just worried you'd be surprised because no one was home yesterday. There was an emergency, so I didn't have time to text you back. She suddenly sighed and announced, Dad is injured. Mrs. Jong was somewhat afraid she would worry, so she reassured her. He fell down the stairs. It's not serious, so don't worry. Dad is already being treated at the hospital. 3 years ago, Dad always had to rely on a wheelchair after the car accident. The image of her dad sitting in a wheelchair was always deeply engraved in her mind. It was truly a miracle that he was able to walk again after that. But one side of his body began to show signs of paralysis, so Dad had a bit of difficulty walking. Mrs. Jong couldn't hide her exhaustion. She asked her daughter for a favor. If you go home, please lock the store for me. I was in such a hurry that I just left like that. Yeah, I'm fine, don't worry. Subin silently hung up the phone, her heart extremely troubled. Is he really okay after falling down the stairs? Subin sat quietly on the cold ground, thinking about her dad. Mom said he wasn't hurt too badly, but there would definitely be some bruises on his body. She comforted herself. Mom said he would be fine, but a drop of water suddenly pattered onto the floor. Jae-jun suddenly appeared, touching her shoulder with his soaking wet hair, and gently asked with concern, What's wrong? Did something happen? Subin took a deep breath and sighed aloud. My dad fell. Her whole body trembled violently. Suddenly, Subin stood up abruptly. Ignoring his concern, she hurriedly ran off. Jae-jun held her phone and yelled, Hey, your phone. Subin shouted urgently, I'm going to get my bag first. A moment later, Jae-jun opened the car door and put her handbag inside for her. Then he said, Get in. Jae-jun opened the door and waited for her. I'll drive you there. Subin looked at him hesitantly. Jae-jun lost his patience and directly pulled her into the car. Come on. Subin was dazed like a wooden dummy, being forced into the car by him. Jaejun casually closed the door and asked, "To the store first, right?" Subin was so worried that she unconsciously bit her nails. Mom said she didn't need to worry, but she took a bite and thought to herself, what if he is seriously injured this time? Jaejun frowned, standing outside the car and looking inside. She was just thinking in the past. Suddenly Jaejun snapped his fingers, making Subin instantly snap out of her panic. Jaejun lowered his head, worriedly and softly said, "Snap out of it." Subin pursed her lips to calm herself down, while Jaejun quickly got into the driver's seat. He handed her a towel. "Wrap this around yourself. Your clothes are too thin." Subin looked at his hand in surprise. "A blanket?" She quickly took it. "Yeah, okay." Then she suddenly sneezed, spraying everywhere. Jaejun covered his face in disgust. "Could you please wrap it around yourself?" She wiped her nose and nodded with difficulty. Then Subin couldn't help but sneeze several times in a row, making Jaejun angry and threaten. "Do you want to wrap it around yourself, or do you want me to put you in a coffin?" Saying that, Jaejun thoughtfully turned on the heater in the car. The warm air spread, making her unable to help but glance at him. She noticed his hair was completely wet. Subin hesitantly opened her mouth to ask, "What about you? Don't you need a blanket?" She looked worried. "You look even wetter than me." Jaejun nonchalantly replied, "I don't need it." Subin frowned and said gruffly, "Don't talk nonsense and catch a cold. Wrap something around yourself." Jaejun flatly refused. "I know what to do when necessary." Subin ignored him, picking up the blanket and handing it to him. "Otherwise, use this." Jaejun tiredly glanced at her. "Worry about yourself first." Saying that, he ruffled his hair into a bird's nest, making water splash everywhere. Subin backed away and immediately yelled, "Hey, you're splashing water everywhere." Jaejun smirked, looking at her handsomely and smugly. "Gosh, catching a cold is not in my dictionary," Subin said sarcastically. "Then what kind of disease is in your dictionary?" She sighed, still determinedly handing him the blanket. "Stop being ridiculous here. Use this." Knowing she was sad, he didn't take it but unexpectedly said warmly, "Just calm down." The ice-cold, handsome man suddenly cared for Subin. "Everything will be fine." After finishing his sentence, Jaejun stepped on the gas and drove off like flying. Subin was silent for a moment and then replied, "Yeah." A few minutes later, Subin looked at the door in surprise. "What is this?" She stepped into the store, her mind full of questions. Not only did she not close the door, but she also left her slippers outside. Subin glanced around at the items in the store. They looked really messy too. Her eyebrows furrowed. Subin wondered, why does Mom always act like this? Subin gritted her teeth sadly. Is there really nothing to worry about for me? A long while later, she pulled the store door and locked it. Jaejun stood to the side with his arms crossed and suggested in a low voice, "Let's go. I'll drive you to the hospital." Jaejun silently paid attention to her. After that, the two continued moving. In the car, Subin's phone rang again. She picked it up, and it was Mrs. Zhang's voice. "Hello." She calmly asked her, "Mom, which hospital are you at?" Mrs. Zhang frowned and asked, "Are you coming?" Subin pursed her lips and nodded, "Yes." She sighed deeply. "There's no need to come." Subin shook her head and smiled bitterly. "Just tell me. I'm already in the car." Having no other choice, Mrs. Zhang gave her the address. Subin nodded happily and thought to herself, "Yes, luckily it's not too far." She gave some instructions, and she smiled and said to her, "Yes, I know. I'm hanging up now." Subin was about to hang up, but suddenly she called her name again, Subin. She was stunned for a moment before replying, "Yes, tell me, Mom." Mrs. Zhang said tiredly into the phone, "I haven't even had a cup of coffee yet. Could you buy one for me?" Subin immediately agreed and replied, "Coffee? All right, I'll buy it." Finishing her sentence, she hung up the phone, her eyes somber and thoughtful. Didn't Mom say she was fine? She can't stand going a day without drinking coffee. She must be at her limit now. A long while later, the two of them arrived at the general hospital. Jaejun bought 2 cups of coffee and walked back to the car. He held the coffee in front of her. "Take this with you." Subin widened her eyes in surprise. Why are you taking such good care of me all of a sudden? It gives me the creeps." Subin felt self-consciously hesitant. "You don't need to take care of me." Before she could finish her sentence, she tripped over the car door and fell backward. With a thud, Jaejun caught her, and he let out a sigh. "Can't you even walk by yourself?" Under Subin's stunned gaze, he pulled her hand into the hospital. "Let's go." Subin looked in panic at his hand, tightly gripping her wrist. Hey, what are you trying to do? Let go, I can walk by myself. Jae-jun turned his head and glared at her. Then, his voice became strangely gentle. Don't put on such a gloomy face. Subin was made as stiff as a rock by him. After that, without saying a word, Jae-jun decisively pulled her along. His sturdy back was deeply imprinted in her eyes. He's not someone I can rely on to begin with. Subin momentarily widened her eyes in a daze, unable to reply to him at all. And I also know I shouldn't rely on this kind of person, Subin told herself in her heart. But I keep getting dragged from one place to another, just like that, and just like that. At the City General Hospital, Jae-jun watched Subin frantically running as if chased by a ghost. She ran while saying to him, I know how to find a room myself. Jae-jun looked at her and couldn't help but sigh. Subin muttered, counting the numbers. 512, 512. Oh, here it is. The hospital room appeared before her eyes at the same time as the familiar voice of a man. Oh, honey. Her dad whined to her mom, scratch my back for me. Subin stood silently outside the door. He seems fine, thank goodness. She was about to knock on the door when she suddenly heard her dad say to his wife, by the way, did Subin contact that boy? He asked Mrs. Jong curiously. The guy she met last time, he seemed polite. She smiled gently and replied, she'll probably bring him over next week. He suddenly exclaimed, why? Did it not work out? Did our Subin not like him? Subin stood outside the door, biting her lip as she heard Mrs. Jong reply, I don't think so. Subin's dad sighed deeply and helplessly. It just feels like because my daughter is too pretty, it ends up being a lot of pressure. Subin's dad casually chatted with his wife. She kept muttering something like, oh gosh, he's not my type. She quietly stood still, falling into deep thought. They've never brought up these kinds of things in front of me. Suddenly, she heard her dad blaming himself. It's just that she doesn't want to love anyone else after breaking up with Gunho. His voice sounded hesitant. I wonder if it's because of me? Hearing this, Subin unconsciously felt her heart skip a beat. She was angry and wanted to scream. Poor Gunho. Mrs. Jong felt her husband was going a bit too far. She smacked him on the shoulder and scolded. Oh, stop it. Shut your mouth. He panicked and exclaimed in pain, ouch, mommy. Subin's dad rubbed his shoulder and cried aggrievedly. Honey, why are you still so strong? Look at my back, it's all red. Mrs. Jong clenched her fists and threatened her husband. Don't ever mention it again. Why do you always have to bring up the past? Subin's dad angrily raised his voice and replied, no, it's just because I saw them suddenly break up after already planning for the wedding. As he was speaking, Subin suddenly stormed in from outside the door and yelled, I'm not getting married. Subin's dad was startled. Then he calmed down and talked to her. Here is my precious daughter. Are you here to visit your dad? Mrs. Jong looked at her and asked softly, how is the store? Did you lock the door? Subin didn't answer the trivial matters her mom mentioned. She frustratingly declared once again, how many times do I have to say it? I don't want to marry anyone, so stop talking about it. Her dad couldn't hide his worry. Subin, seeing the coffee in her hand, Mrs. Jong quickly changed the subject. Coffee? I only wanted 1 cup, you know? Why did you buy so many? Subin scoffed coldly and said through gritted teeth, anyone who hears it would think it's gold-plated coffee. It's just coffee, what's the problem, Mom? Mrs. Jong got annoyed, but still calmly explained, well, I only wanted 1 cup. How many cups do you think are in that pile? Subin pouted, losing a bit of control over her words. Right? That's really how it is, isn't it? You spend your whole life selling rice cakes and paper cups just to be able to drink 1 cup of coffee. Huh? Subin said and let out a tired sigh. I don't know how many times I've asked myself this, but you know what, Mom? Her parents simultaneously listened to her seriously, wanting me to marry a rich husband through those matchmaking companies, and drinking an expensive cup of coffee are all the same. Subin was determined in her thought that she didn't mind if she felt miserable, but she didn't want to sell herself cheap just to feel miserable. Then she clenched her fists, Subin's voice filled with grievance. Me going on all those blind dates isn't the issue. It's not that pathetic, but Subin avoided her parents' eyes. She firmly spoke up. No matter what you say, Mom, I don't want to have to marry someone I don't love. After a moment of silence, Mrs. Jong frowned in confusion. Daughter, who told you that? Who told you that you have to marry a rich husband? She tried hard to explain to her. Mom and Dad just want you to meet a man who can be with you for the rest of your life. Subin abruptly cut her off. Mom, wake up. She tried to make her understand her feelings. Mom, this is reality. There is no such person in my life. Her dad anxiously intervened. Subin, I know what you were worried about. He softened his voice and gently said to his daughter, you want to be with us your whole life? Of course, if I could live another 1,000 years, I would want that too. His voice was thoughtful and sad. But you must know that you can't, no matter how miserable you are. He lowered his voice. Wouldn't it be better to rely on someone? Do you understand what I mean? Subin silently looked at her dad slowly. 3 years ago, he had an accident and experienced a near-death moment, and now it has become a habit for him to prepare to pass away at any time. Subin pursed her lips in anger, thinking to herself, am I that precious to you? To the point that you can't feel at ease, leaving me alone? But it's all because of greed. She wanted to scream, what do you know about the person I will be with for the rest of my life? Subin spoke up resentfully. What's wrong with you, Dad? Let me live my own life. He sighed and called softly, Subin. She swallowed her tears, trying to stay composed. It's my life. I want to decide it myself. Subin didn't want to hear another word from him. She persistently explained, can't you just let me do that? Didn't you like the guy you met last time? Is it because of that? Mrs. Zhang suddenly spoke up to advise her. He seems like a nice guy, and his family background is fine too. Subin yelled angrily, oh my God, are you even listening? What is wrong with you two? She gritted her teeth in frustration. You and Dad don't understand anything at all. You have no idea what I had to hear. Subin screamed resentfully. Every time I go on a blind date. After she finished speaking, Mrs. Zhang was immediately stunned. What are you talking about? What did you have to hear? Subin bit her lip, thinking angrily to herself. No matter how terribly the other person treated me, I don't want my parents to know about it. Subin thought helplessly. Those 13 blind date partners made my self-esteem collapse and made me miserable every time I encountered the curses I had to hear. Mrs. Zhang yelled at her angrily. What? Why are you only telling me this now? Subin said pitifully. Did you ever ask? Her voice was filled with choking sobs and resentment. All you care about is how many blind dates you can get from me. Suddenly, Subin loudly declared, I want to live alone. She hugged herself tightly and firmly said, I'd rather live a lonely life than be deceived by someone and cry over them. After speaking, Subin pursed her lips. I've said everything. Despite her mom and dad's worries, she dashed outside. Mrs. Zhang yelled at her wait. Subin decisively pushed the door open, her mom's voice echoing across the room. Subin. The sound of running footsteps echoed on the cold floor. Subin ran headlong, thinking sadly to herself, the worst thing in my life. Jaejun's gaze shot toward her like a blade. Subin ran past him, and Jaejun silently darted his surprised eyes at her. In that brief moment, Subin's eyes full of resentment were deeply etched into his mind. Jaejun pursed his lips and just looked at her without intending to stop her. He silently crossed his arms and stood aside, letting her run away. Mrs. Zhang chased after her, shouting, Subin. Bumping into him, Mrs. Zhang couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. Jaejun, you're Jaejun, right? He politely replied, yes, good morning. She nodded happily. Yes. After speaking, Mrs. Zhang couldn't help but smile awkwardly at him. When did you arrive? Did you come with her? Jaejun glanced at her and honestly replied, yes, I thought going inside would make her uncomfortable, so I waited outside. Mrs. Zhang nodded shyly. Ah, I see. After speaking, it was inconvenient for Jaejun to stay long, so he bowed politely to say goodbye. Please tell Uncle I said hello, and there's no need to worry about Subin. I will come back later. He was about to run off right away when Mrs. Zhang unexpectedly pulled his shirt to stop him. Jaejun. Jaejun blinked and looked at her. Yes, please go ahead. Mrs. Zhang couldn't help but hesitate, wanting to speak, but stopping. Finally, Mrs. Zhang looked at him and asked miserably, you came here to get that money back from Subin, right? Her face clearly showed guilt. I won't forget what you did before. I will definitely pay it back as promised. Mrs. Zhang awkwardly asked for his understanding. I hope you won't mind it. Jaejun remained silent and didn't reply, asking himself, really? How will you pay it back? With that thought, Jaejun bowed respectfully. Then I will take my leave. Mrs. Zhang nodded. Yeah, Jaejun. Looking at his retreating back, she softly pleaded, just please keep an eye on Subin for me. As a mother worrying about her daughter, Mrs. Zhang couldn't help but sigh in distress. The bus started to pull into the station. Even if it was a hard journey, the three of us had a peaceful and stable life. Subin sat in a corner of the bus stop, her mind wandering, constantly reassuring herself, and that alone is enough for me. A sorrowful figure, yet her thoughts were like self-comfort to soothe her mother's worries. You and Dad don't need to worry much about me anymore. That's what I want to say. Suddenly, from out of nowhere, A pair of hands gently rested on Soo-bin's shoulders. It was Jae-jun, his tall figure standing close to Soo-bin. He softly said, "Let's go, I'll take you home." Despite his offer, Soo-bin remained sitting there and refused. "It's okay, I can take the bus home myself." Jae-jun was a bit worried and stammered. "But you." Jae-jun stared blankly closely at Soo-bin and said, "Right now you look like a soulless corpse." Hearing that, Soo-bin was also stunned and annoyed. Really? After that, Soo-bin eventually agreed to get in the car for Jae-jun to drive her home. Jae-jun's hands gently closed the car door. Soo-bin sat in the car, her face showing extreme tension. She thought, the tears just won't stop. Then Jae-jun also quickly got into the car and prepared to drive her home. Meanwhile, Soo-bin was extremely embarrassed as her tears kept flowing. She continuously wiped her eyes and thought to herself, "It really hurts my self-esteem." Realizing Soo-bin was sniffling, Jae-jun, a considerate guy, offered his handkerchief to Soo-bin to wipe her tears. Soo-bin did not hesitate to reach out and take it, but in her heart, she was screaming, "So annoying." The car engine started, and Soo-bin kept crying. Jae-jun drove with a cold expression, while Soo-bin continued to sniffle incessantly. The music in the car started playing, and Soo-bin sank deeper into her own sorrow. She sobbed, unable to stop. Thoughts kept creeping into her head. "I understand better than anyone else why my parents want me to get married so badly. It's the reason that makes me sick." Soo-bin seemed to imagine her childhood dream of wearing a beautiful, radiant wedding dress. She thought to herself, "Marriage, marriage, marriage. I've always dreamed so much about it since I was little because I grew up independently and wisely. My wish became even more urgent to have a happy life." Countless happy fantasies with her first love, Gunho, appeared in Soo-bin's mind. With her first love, who was also her last love and the only person she gave her whole heart to, Gunho. The beautiful memories were soon followed by sorrow. She reminisced until the time she broke up with him. Her dad's accident happened 3 years ago, the accident that led to the end of our relationship. The past came back as if it were happening right before her eyes. The day Soo-bin talked to her mom, "Mom, I don't want to date anyone anymore." "Do you hear me?" Soo-bin's mom, quite worried about her future life, replied, "Don't talk as if your life has come to an end." Mrs. Zhang's face showed a hint of irritability, as if she could read her daughter's mind. "You can meet him again if you want." Hearing that, Soo-bin immediately waved her hands in constant denial. No, I've changed my mind. Really, I don't even understand why I want to get married anymore. Mom and Dad don't know exactly how everything happened." She immediately reassured her, "I'm fine, you know? I only need you and Dad." And that was exactly how she hid that immense pain. Since then, the beautiful dream of a wedding disappeared, leaving my heart with nothing but doubt and emptiness. With tearful, sniffling eyes, Soo-bin softly asked, "You heard me, right?" She continued, "I can't leave them alone. What if I tell them now that I'm getting married?" Jae-jun just listened in silence. Soo-bin's heart was heavy with sorrow. So it turns out it was all a lie. They're just selling their daughter because of a debt they can't pay. How will my parents feel? One day they find out that their only daughter entered an arranged marriage only for it to end. Hearing that, Jae-jun's eyes wavered slightly as he softly glanced away. Soo-bin clenched her fists on her lap. Her voice choked with tears as she confided, "They're the only ones who understand how much I fantasized about marriage. They want me to be happier than anyone else." She lamented, "And look at my situation right now. I have no interest in holding on to someone else through a marriage." Hearing that, Jae-jun casually suggested, "Then do it with me." Soo-bin seemed to freeze, not believing her ears. "What?" Jae-jun continued to suggest with a slightly shy look. "If it's me, the story will be completely different. I won't be a good husband, but I can guarantee to be a good son-in-law." Jae-jun thought to himself, "Well, you said your hands are tied. I think I'm the one with the key to unlock them." Soo-bin suddenly got grumpy. Do you understand me? Fine, if I marry you, what will you do within a year? Win over my parents?" Hearing that, Jae-jun coldly said, "I understand what you mean. The problem isn't simply about paying off the debt anymore. We get married so we can live freely. I'm just using marriage as an excuse to avoid being bound by marital obligations." Jae-jun drove while stating his viewpoint, thoughts, and desires. I want to have a free life. He leaned forward over the steering wheel, then turned to look at Subin and said, I will go abroad as soon as the promise is fulfilled. He laid out his plan. I will return to South Korea once a year to visit my parents. There are many reasons to return to South Korea, so don't worry too much. We can still pretend to be newlyweds, right? And of course, I will provide enough for you, so don't worry about making a living. And if one day you meet the right person. Jae-jun's voice hesitated, yet full of understanding, his face nonchalant but strangely handsome. He continued, then let me know. I will arrange everything for you to be with that person. You can put all the blame on me. Hearing that, Subin's face showed a hint of surprise. Jae-jun brought his hand to his chin and thought, oh, speaking of which, don't think that you're being sold off. It's simply taking a course. God, how cheaply have you sold your self-esteem? Are you even a real human? Subin got angry hearing that one. Jae-jun continued talking. I don't know what will happen if I push you off a cliff. Subin said in annoyance. What? Then, Jae-jun's deep voice softened, full of reliability. I promise, this marriage won't lose anything and no one will suffer. Subin turned to him in confusion and asked, what the hell is this? Jae-jun confidently affirmed, I'm sure you will have to agree. The car screeched to a halt, and Jae-jun turned to ask, have you changed your mind yet? Subin sat silently in the car, without saying a word. Noticing her attitude, Jae-jun smiled slightly and teased. You look like you're tempted, huh? Honestly, it would be strange not to be convinced in this situation. Jae-jun continued, well, if you hesitate, I have no choice but to persuade you with all my might. In front of the building, the two sat in the car, and Jae-jun continuously persuaded her. It will all be the same since this is your last chance. The last chance to refuse my offer. Tell me right now if you don't want to do it, or if you don't say anything until I count to 3, it means you've agreed. Subin then spoke up and asked, right now? Jae-jun quickly replied, yes, right now. I will count slowly. If you've made up your mind, you'll have plenty of time to refuse. He slowly counted, 1, 2. Subin was a bit startled. Then came 3. Just as he finished counting to 3, Subin cried out, wait, but it was too late. He had already counted to 3. Jae-jun then reached out to open the car door and said, all right, my job here is done. Get home safely. Subin held tightly to her seatbelt and said, wait, hold on a second. She said softly, before I agree, I need to make sure of a few things. Jae-jun asked, what is it? Subin then quickly opened the car door and hurriedly told him, you don't need to know that. I'll check it with my own eyes. See you tomorrow after work. Stepping out of the car, she didn't forget to remind Jae-jun, and don't eat dinner. Wait for me to eat together. Anyway, I'll treat you to something delicious, so make sure to come with an empty stomach. Jae-jun had a cold face, but his words were incredibly adorable. I can eat a lot. Remember to keep your word. Subin turned and ran off, not forgetting to wave to Jae-jun and say, tomorrow will be the last day. I'm patient with you. Thank you for today. See you tomorrow. The sound of Jae-jun's car faded into the distance. Subin then turned around, clenched her fists, and thought, all right, let's give it a try. Suddenly, her phone notification rang. She checked her phone and received a message from Jae-jun. I will pick you up at the hotel where you work. See you tomorrow. Subin walked briskly home, firmly affirming in her mind, all right, I will verify it myself. Moving on to the next day, as Subin was standing in front of the hotel with a colleague, her friend exclaimed with excitement, oops, spotted a handsome guy at 2 o'clock. Excuse me, assistant manager. That's Jae-jun, the handsome face waiting for Subin. His elegant and calm demeanor attracted so many girls. Hit the jackpot. He's really handsome. Subin also quickly played along and replied, confirming there's indeed a handsome guy at 2 o'clock. Her boy-crazy colleague excitedly praised, so handsome, life is truly worth living. Subin confidently offered, well, she proudly said, do you want me to make a move for you? The colleague asked back in panic, what? If you succeed, I'll be your fan for the rest of my life. If you really pull it off, remember to share your secret with me. Subin turned and walked away, firmly stating, okay, watch and learn. Seeing this, the colleague couldn't help but admire. The assistant manager is so cool. Watching Subin's silhouette approach Jae-jun, she wondered, will she get his number? Let's bet. Let's make a bet. What a bet. We can't even hear what they're saying, can we? On this side, they were extremely curious about what Subin and the handsome Jae-jun were talking about. Everyone could only marvel. Wow. He smiled. Oh my gosh, he's drop-dead gorgeous. Subin quickly linked arms with Jae-jun and turned away, but didn't forget to look back and give a happy signal. A perfectly successful action. She waved goodbye to her colleagues. I'm leaving now. The colleagues exclaimed in awe. She hit the jackpot. Then, as promised, Subin took Jae-jun to a small street food stall and ordered. "Annie," Subin excitedly said, "give me some chicken feet and a bottle of soju, please." Jae-jun seemed unaccustomed and was speechless. "Is this what you want to eat?" The stall owner also replied quickly, coming right up. Subin happily replied, "Huh, did you see them earlier? They must be so surprised, so cute." Jae-jun didn't seem very interested and retorted dryly, "What's so funny?" Hearing that, she didn't care and still found it cute, affirming, It's hilarious." Quick as lightning, the food was brought to the table. "Here you go." Under Jae-jun's uninterested gaze, Subin was extremely joyful. "Oh, it looks so delicious." Then she put on gloves and asked, "By the way, do you know how to eat this?" Jae-jun teased sarcastically, "Wow, you asked too early. I don't know how to eat this dish." Subin asked back in sheer surprise, "What, really?" She handed him a chicken foot and offered, "It's very delicious, try it." Jae-jun coldly said, "I don't want to eat anything." Sitting in the eatery, Jae-jun said, "Just drinking?" Subin asked with concern, "Is that okay?" It seemed Jae-jun was perfectly fine with that. Subin was thrilled as the first step of her plan went smoothly. She thought to herself, mischievously, succeeded in finding the food he hates. Watching Jae-jun continuously drinking soju, she thought to herself, I need to get him drunk, but I don't know his alcohol tolerance. Just keep drinking on an empty stomach. Seeing Subin silent, Jae-jun spoke up and asked, what's wrong? Can you continue talking about last night now? Subin seemed to wake up to reality and stammered, I will. I'm just wondering about one thing. Jae-jun generously said, ask away. With a bright face and eyes shining like stars looking at Jae-jun, Subin asked, is there no one better than me? Or is it because I'm too perfect? Hearing that, Jae-jun was speechless and stunned. Then he awkwardly replied vaguely, I can't do it without you. Hearing that, Subin was overjoyed, smiling brightly. Really? Come on, let me hear the reasons. Jae-jun irritably asked, are you crazy? But then Jae-jun also gave in and explained, I just can't. The two clinked glasses, and Jae-jun calmly explained, because I don't need anyone, I don't care about anything, and you are the perfect person for that position. Seeing that, Subin replied, thinking about it now, your mind is quite simple. Jae-jun still seemed confused and stammered. Why suddenly? But before he could speak, Subin continued asking, it seems like you're living comfortably, huh? Jae-jun then asked, hey, what do you think I've been doing? Subin sat eating, resting her chin on her hand, and confided, after that time I got drunk, I realized we had a wonderful night, right? Hearing that, Jae-jun seemed to freeze. He was curious, as if he had figured it out. So that is the last thing you want to check, huh? Do you think I'm a scumbag who takes advantage of a drunk woman? You want to know if we slept together or not, meaning you're curious, right? Subin raised her glass to take a sip, her eyes sluggish as she thought. He has quite a sense of humor, doesn't he? Jae-jun scratched his head, sighed, and said, I know what you're thinking, but you misunderstood. No matter how much I hate you, do you think I'm the type of person to take advantage of a woman when she's drunk? Subin heard that, but seemed unconvinced and pressed. How can I trust you? I don't remember anything about it. Jae-jun retorted equally. Then why are you doubting something you can't remember clearly? Subin then leaned towards Jae-jun and spoke loudly in a rapid-fire manner. But that day you said I was overreacting. When I asked if we had slept together, your mouth said yes. Jae-jun irritably asked back, oh, really? Then did we sleep together or not? Leaving Subin confused and dumbfounded. Then he poked her forehead and said, I bled because your rock-hard head hit me, and I even broke my back washing the clothes you puked on. With a weary face recalling the past, Jae-jun couldn't understand it either, just continuously venting at Subin. I tried to take you home so your parents could see what their daughter was like, but I was so tired then that I just went straight to sleep. He felt a bit of regret. I should have slept on the sofa so that when you woke up, you wouldn't have to see me with nothing on, right? Subin was so embarrassed that she yelled, hey. Then why when I asked if we slept together? You made me misunderstand right there? The two bickered back and forth. Jae-jun refused to yield from the very beginning. You were the one who made me misunderstand. Subin didn't back down. Why didn't you just explain it right then? Suddenly, Jae-jun's voice deepened as he asked her, so how should a crying child from the hospital be explained to? Still dealing damage, Jae-jun dropped a bombshell. And you are not a woman in my eyes. Subin angrily shouted at Jae-jun. Who wants to be a woman in your eyes anyway? You are not a man in my eyes either. In her mind, Subin thought to herself, so you mean only I was drunk, right? Continuing the drinking session without stopping, Subin ordered more Annie, can I have another bottle of soju, please? Jae-jun was fed up. You want to drink again? He was getting a bit impatient. So have you found the answer to your question? Subin replied curtly, yes. Jae-jun was blunt. Then do you want to marry me? That question made Subin freeze. Gazing thoughtfully at this handsome guy, she wearily replied softly, okay, fine. Subin said, I agree. Jae-jun asked again, really? But Subin seemed to still have her own plan and said, I'm not done talking. She held the soju bottle in her hand. With a serious face, it's not a wedding, but an agreement. Jae-jun was shocked and stammered, since when did you? Subin didn't let him speak and immediately interrupted, all right, that's enough. Drink with me to celebrate. Jae-jun was a bit bewildered, but had no chance to ask as Subin poured the wine and brushed it off. Oh, come on. I was very embarrassed about what I did. The two glasses clinked together, so don't be shy and drink your heart out. We're not leaving until we're drunk. After a few glasses, Subin was dead drunk again, slumped on the table. Jae-jun wearily called out softly, Shin Subin. Then he stood up, turned around, and walked away. You clearly asked me if I would abandon you, so don't blame me when you wake up. Seeing this, the stall owner hurriedly asked, young man, isn't she your girlfriend? Is it okay to leave her here alone? Jae-jun put on his coat, intending to slip away quickly, and nonchalantly replied coldly, she's not my girlfriend. He was about to find the driver's phone number when he saw two drunk men walk in, teasing each other. Well, let's drink some more, Mr. Chicken Park, my treat. Which girl should we call? This caught Jae-jun's attention, making him turn back curiously, secretly thinking about something. Finally, he decided to carry the unconscious Subin back on his back. On the way to the car carrying her, he kept complaining, this suit is definitely going to get wrinkled. Damn you, Shin Subin. Why do I have to carry you? The driver saw this and asked, oh my, your wife is dead drunk. He hurriedly asked, please open the door for me. On the way back, he was endlessly annoyed. Just wait, I'll settle the score with you later. It was late at night, and the lights on the building were still on. Jae-jun left Subin lying on the floor and went somewhere. Subin suddenly opened her eyes. With a completely sober face, she thought, if I knew it would be like this, I would have become an actress. Watch out for me, Jae-jun. Recalling Jae-jun's nonchalant face earlier tonight. So this was what she wanted to verify. Recalling his assertion, do you think I'm the kind of bastard who takes advantage to do bad things when others are drunk? Jae-jun stepped into the bathroom, drops of water running down his legs to the floor. Subin knew, but thoughts still popped up to ensure certainty. I know, but how can I trust him? Jae-jun's large, breathtakingly handsome figure under the shower could captivate hundreds of hearts. Outside, Subin promised herself, I will find out everything about you tonight. Waiting for Jae-jun to enter the bathroom and the sound of running water, Subin forced herself up. She clenched her fists, punching the air behind his back, and cursed softly, Jae-jun, you bastard. She recalled how Jae-jun had just dropped her heavily onto the floor, bitterly asking herself, how could he throw me to the floor like that? Remembering when they were at the restaurant, Jae-jun had asserted, you think that. His face calm. Do you think I'm such a bastard that I'd take advantage of a drunk woman? Thinking about it, she firmly asserted in her heart, even if this is a fake marriage, I absolutely cannot live with that kind of person. After that, Subin threw a few practice punches just in case that worst-case scenario happened. She was confident, I have a heart of stone, I'll teach him some manners. While Subin was still sitting in the middle of the dark room, there was suddenly a click of the door opening. Footsteps walked out. Jae-jun, still damp from the shower, walked towards Subin, who just a moment ago was throwing boxing punches but was now lying flat on the floor. Jae-jun, his whole body still wet and steamy, looked down at Subin. Realizing his gaze was on her, Subin felt briefly flustered. Why is he looking at me so intensely? Why do you keep staring at me? Jae-jun glanced over, perhaps thinking Subin was completely wasted, and casually asked, how did she end up lying on her back? Are you awake? Saying that, he immediately picked Subin up. He held her securely in his arms, a scene straight out of a romance novel. Subin was still awake, lying in the arms of the guy who had just finished showering. She caught the scent from his hair and thought, the smell of shampoo. Jae-jun carried Subin towards the bed, and she thought to herself, phew, I haven't been caught yet, right? Thank goodness. Then, as they approached the bed, Subin felt it was a bit sudden. Isn't this a bed? She slightly opened her eyes to peek at Jae-jun. Does he always shine like this whenever he carries someone? But then she immediately squeezed her eyes shut and thought, he isn't even drunk. Amazing. While Subin was still lost in her thoughts, Jae-jun unceremoniously dropped her onto the bed with a thud, making Soo-bin let out a yelp. Having done that, Jae-jun turned away. Soo-bin lay there cursing inwardly. "Oh my poor waist, you bastard. You could have at least put me down gently." Jae-jun walked to the corner of the room, and the sound of a hairdryer buzzed. Jae-jun's broad back stood there as he blow-dried his shirt. Seeing this, Soo-bin stole a glance at him. A tall, muscular, and incredibly handsome figure was standing there drying his shirt. Suddenly, Soo-bin's eyes widened in slight shock. It turned out Jae-jun was getting ready to change his shirt. He revealed a highly toned physique, captivating enough to charm 1,000 people. Even though Soo-bin hated him, she felt a bit guilty. "I don't have a hobby of peeping at other people's bodies." Her eyes kept staring at Jae-jun as she praised him in her mind. "Even though I really hate him, I have to admit he knows how to take care of his body." After changing his clothes, Jae-jun glanced towards Soo-bin on the bed. The whole room seemed to fall silent. Soo-bin looked like a novel's female lead, looking beautiful even while sleeping on the bed. Jae-jun's gaze was cold as he looked at her, yet somehow held a hint of gentleness. He sat down next to her. Despite her being dead drunk, Jae-jun called out, "Hey Shin Soo-bin." As he called out, his hands gently reached towards Soo-bin. Jae-jun placed a hand on her cheek. Soo-bin couldn't resist and could only feel annoyed in her thoughts. "Hey you, where are you putting your hand? Showing your true colors now, aren't you?" But unexpectedly, Jae-jun pinched Soo-bin's cheek so hard that her face contorted in pain. Pulling her cheek, Jae-jun said, "Hey, you should be grateful that I carried you back. Otherwise, you would be in trouble right now." Soo-bin could only whine in her head, "That hurts." Not stopping there, Jae-jun also flicked Soo-bin's forehead, making her eyebrows knit together. He scolded her, "You're this old, and the only thing you're good at." He looked at her and continued, "It is drinking and passing out all over the place." Soo-bin was extremely furious inside. "That's so annoying." Then Jae-jun left, leaving Soo-bin lying there. She watched Jae-jun's back as he walked out the door. Waiting until he had just stepped out, Soo-bin snapped her eyes open and asked, "What was that? He just leaves like that?" It was then she realized the pain was still lingering on her face, and she threw a fit, screaming, "Why did you flick my forehead? You crazy jerk, it really hurts." She rubbed her forehead and complained. Nothing happened. So my plan completely failed. I don't fully remember what happened that day. Fragments of memories came back. The image of Jae-jun calling her, "Hey, Shin Soo-bin." She remembered that on that drunken day, she had headbutt Jae-jun painfully. Then she just passed out on the ground, leaving Jae-jun to handle everything himself. Thinking about it, she gave a soft smile. She brought a hand to her nose and chuckled. "Wow, so nothing really happened. I shouldn't worry about it anymore." She sprang up, fixed her hair, and called Jae-jun. Jae-jun was a bit surprised. What are you doing? I thought you were dead drunk." Soo-bin just smiled. She continued, "Let's have our families meet," making Jae-jun pause in apparent surprise. Soo-bin kept smiling, unconcerned. "I think next week is reasonable." Jae-jun was still surprised, but before he could finish, she immediately interrupted. "What's wrong? The sooner the better, right?" Soo-bin played with her hair and rattled on. "Come talk to my parents first, then we'll go to your house. Check your schedule. Good luck, bye." Jae-jun was speechless, putting a hand to his forehead in helplessness, thinking, "I thought she was completely wasted." Soo-bin let out a sigh and thought, "It's only for a short time. I'll make the most of it." She hung up the phone, thinking about the things to come and how she would make the best use of them. Soo-bin's face lit up with excitement, as if she just came up with a new idea, which was a plan to divorce him. Let's give it a try. The city had turned to night, and the lights gradually thinned out. In another setting, a pair of feet stepped into a house with extremely heavy, loud thuds. It was Gunho's mother and Gunho, Soo-bin's first love. His mother shouted, "Gunho!" The miserable guy collapsed on the floor, continuously apologizing. "It's all my fault." Seeing this, his mother was extremely worried. "Why are you so drunk? Why do you keep making me worry?" Gunho didn't listen to his mother's words at all, repeatedly hitting the floor. His mouth kept saying, "I'm sorry, Soo-bin. Everything is my fault." His mother immediately yelled, "Hey, Part Gunho, will you sober up?" He was truly out of his mind, tears streaming down his face. Mom. He cried out loud, "I can't take it anymore. Soo-bin, please give Soo-bin back to me." At this moment, Gunho cried out in extreme pain, "Mom, I can't take it anymore." He kept muttering, I miss Subin so much. Hearing that, Mrs. Yun-young's face filled with worry as she repeatedly asked, Park Gun-ho, are you going to stop or what? What the hell are you doing? Gun-ho, like a madman, knelt there crying his eyes out. I was wrong, I was wrong. Seeing that, his mother immediately smacked Gun-ho's back hard and said, Son, why are you crying over a girl like that? Marriage is not child's play. Yun-young shook Gun-ho violently and yelled, You should marry someone who loves you and is ready to support you from behind. How many times have I told you? Wake up, my dear. Love will never feed you. Gun-ho recalled his image back then, coldly breaking up with Subin. I will do everything my mother says. So let's break up, Subin. Afterwards, his mother's face was full of worry as she thought to herself, I thought he was only going to date that girl for a while. How did I make them break up? Gun-ho suddenly spoke in a weak voice, tears streaming down. Mom, I really can't endure this anymore. I think it would be better if I just died. Hearing this, Mrs. Yun-young panicked, utterly shocked. Gun-ho, she shook her son vigorously and screamed, What are you saying to me? I can't live without you. Gun-ho at this point could only hold his face in pain, sobbing, I'm begging you, Mom, ever since you chased Subin away. I want you to give her back to me. That sentence pierced her heart, making Yun-young's whole body tremble along with her son. The two stood in silence in the middle of the empty house. The scene shifted to the hotel where Subin worked. She was on duty at the hotel entrance. Subin thought in boredom. Why do days like this even exist? Subin let out a soft sigh and looked up. It wasn't any special occasion, but it was busier than usual. Excited for her shift to end, Subin thought, My shift will be over after we serve the last guest for today. Just as she finished her thought, the door chime rang. Subin immediately changed her attitude, smiling cheerfully as she said, Welcome. It's a pleasure to. Suddenly she stopped, hesitating a bit because she saw someone. It turned out to be Mrs. Yun-young. Subin couldn't forget her and recognized her right away. Park Gun-ho's mother? She then spoke up. Why are you suddenly stuttering? Looking at Subin's name tag, she said, An assistant manager? Yun-young's face showed a bit of contempt, looking at her wearily and judging. It seems you're still not professional at all, huh? Then, simply because it was Subin, she showed her displeasure. It seems I came to the wrong place. Subin's eyes showed annoyance, but she still had to endure it. She thought, the person who almost became my mother-in-law, she hasn't changed a bit in the past 3 years. Subin returned to her work. She politely asked Mrs. Yun-young, Excuse me, ma'am, have you made a reservation? Mrs. Yun-young casually replied, I haven't. Seeing that, Subin followed the procedure and replied, I am very sorry, but we are fully booked right now. It will be a bit difficult to find a room for you. Mrs. Yun-young, seemingly wanting to pick a fight, immediately got irritated. You can't even find a room for me? As a manager, Subin didn't hesitate to outright refuse. No, ma'am. If so, you can only reserve a table for a meal. I will lead you there if you agree. But that only made Gun-ho's mother want to pick a fight even more. She was absolutely furious and screamed in Subin's face. Are you trying to provoke me? Since Subin was still an employee, she could only bow and explain, I was simply following our policy. But I sincerely apologize if you felt offended. Noticing the tension, the friend accompanying Gun-ho's mother gently patted her on the shoulder to calm her down. Why are you getting upset again? Let's just go inside. To defuse the situation, Subin's manager stepped out. He hurried over and asked, I'm terribly sorry, ma'am. Is there anything I can help you with? Simply because she was a customer, Yun-young put on airs, pointed at Subin, then turned to ask him, Are you the one in charge here? The manager replied, Yes, that's correct, ma'am. She immediately complained about Subin. What kind of staff are you training? She didn't answer me politely, and she even said it was difficult to find a room for me. The manager soothed her. I understand, and I sincerely apologize, ma'am. Subin stood to one side, forcing a smile and holding herself back. The manager then led Gun-ho's mother away, courteously saying as they walked, Please allow me to show you the way. After only a few steps, Yun-young still hadn't finished asserting her superiority and turned back to say with contempt, Oh, before we go, shouldn't I be getting an apology from her? Subin could only bow politely and apologize to Mrs. Yun-young to smooth things over, just fulfilling her duty. She said, I sincerely apologize, ma'am. Then she glanced up and watched Mrs. Yun-young's figure walk away, thinking to herself, She knows I work here. What more does she expect from me? She recalled how, in the past, the woman had tried to block the marriage between Gun-ho and Subin. She knew the woman despised her, even though she and Gun-ho had already broken up. So why on earth had she come here? The manager called for Subin after he had escorted the troublesome guest inside. He called out softly, "Hey, Subin." Subin responded promptly, "Yes, sir." The manager, a little worried about her and somewhat hesitant to bring it up, said, "That guest has requested you to serve them personally. Are you okay with that?" Subin accepted the task with a bright smile. "Yes, I'll go right away." "Please don't worry, sir." But deep down, she quietly reassured herself, "I just need to get through this unpleasant task as quickly as possible." With that, she knocked politely on the door. "Excuse me." Subin carried in the crab soup and cheerfully set it down on the table. "I'll place the crab soup right here." Gunho's mother's friend responded with perfect courtesy. "Thank you." In contrast, Yun-Yung cast a glance at Subin filled with contempt. She let out a little "oh" and then asked, "How is your father doing?" At that question, Subin's hand trembled slightly, but she answered briefly, "He's doing much better, thank you." The woman wasn't done and kept prodding. "That's good to hear. And your mother?" Without waiting for Subin to answer, Mrs. Yun-Yung sneered. "Is she still selling tteokbokki in front of the school gate?" Noticing that Subin's expression had turned quite sour, Yun-Yung seized the opportunity to dig further. "Oh, why aren't you answering? Did I ask something so shameful?" Another friend of hers asked somewhat hesitantly. "That, Yun-Yung, do you know this person?" The woman answered with full confidence. "Oh, she used to chase after Gunho for a while." Her mouth curved into an uncontrollable smirk, dripping with sarcasm as she sneered at Subin. "How would you even know what Jeju Island looks like when you're still here carrying trays and washing dishes at this restaurant?" Subin was quite uncomfortable, but still managed to keep a composed smile. Mrs. Yun-Yung continued to humiliate her. She even tried to get in my son's way. Once Subin had finished, she left, still offering one last courtesy. "Enjoy your meal, ma'am." Stepping out the door, her face had gone pale, as though she'd been deprived of oxygen. Subin gave herself a little pep talk, both cheering and reassuring herself. "All right, you did great. That's the way, Subin." Finally, Mrs. Yun-Yung had finished her meal. "Thank you for dining with us, ma'am." The receptionist at the cashier asked her, "Were you satisfied with our service today?" Gunho's mother replied dismissively, "Oh, I suppose so." Mrs. Yun-Yung suddenly remembered something and quickly pulled a few bills from her purse, saying, "Oh, I almost forgot." She shoved the bills at Subin in a manner that felt like an insult to her dignity, saying with contempt, "Here, a tip for you." She didn't stop there, adding, "Your feet must be aching from standing all day, so take a taxi home." Subin took the money, eyes cast downward. The woman still added, "You wouldn't refuse a guest like me, would you? Even if you feel you don't deserve it, just take it." Mrs. Yun-Yung turned and left, not forgetting to promise, "Haha, I'll be back." The colleague standing beside Subin was seething with anger, and immediately asked, "Manager, can't you tell her not to come back?" The manager could only sigh and reply, "Doing it would only lower our own dignity." Subin also understood to some extent, and laughed it off cheerfully. "Haha, it's fine, I'm okay." Then Subin said with resolute eyes, "Having our dignity trampled on by someone like her is not something I'm grateful for." And so Subin's shift came to an end, and she was walking briskly toward the exit. She happened to pass by the guest lounge near the hotel entrance. Gunho's mother was sitting there, waiting. As Subin walked past, the woman quickly set her cup down on the saucer with a sharp clink. Seeing Subin walk past her, Mrs. Yun-Yung spoke up. "Hey you." Subin turned around, and the woman proposed, "Can we talk for a moment?" Subin sat down in the chair across from her. Mrs. Yun-Yung quickly asked point blank. What she said caught Subin off guard. "How long do you intend to keep doing this job?" She rolled her eyes and clicked her tongue, clearly unimpressed. Yun-Yung sneered and continued to speak in vague terms that made Subin somewhat uneasy. "You don't understand what I mean, do you? Get to the point. What is your reason for being here?" She kept up her relentless mockery. "Right, that's just the kind of person you are, isn't it?" The image of you in that uniform, bowing before everyone, seems to have made quite an impression on Mrs. Mon. You must find it very hard to imagine what you look like in front of others, don't you? Subin let out a slow sigh and gradually rose from her seat. "If you have nothing more to say, I'll excuse myself." Yun-Yung suddenly slammed her hand down on the table in anger, glaring at her and snapping, "Sit down. How dare you walk away when someone older than you is still speaking?" Seeing the woman start to drag her parents into it, Subin could only stay silent helplessly. "Is that how your parents raised you?" I'm not finished talking. Yun Young kept praising her own son, all while putting others down. Gunho already has a career. Don't you feel ashamed, carrying dishes every day like this? This is a prestigious hotel, but you don't have to be working at the front desk. She put forward a suggestion. Why not quit and find an office job instead? Subin frowned in confusion. Why would I do that? Why not? Yun Young raised her teacup and took a sip. My son is a doctor. How could I possibly accept his future wife washing dishes at a restaurant? Only then did Subin realize. Gunho must be so heartbroken that he can't turn away from her. So I had no choice but to come and say this myself. She quietly observed the woman putting on airs in front of her. Now she understood why the woman had come here. Subin smiled inwardly, amused that he still couldn't get over her. She pressed her lips together tightly, her mind beginning to drift back. But if I disappoint her now, she'll just blame me again. People don't change that easily. On that day, beneath the rustling cherry blossom trees, Gunho had stood waiting for her with a smile always lingering at the corners of his lips. The moment he saw Subin, he held out a gleaming metal ring box. Subin, will you marry me? There was no need to say how happy she had been in that moment. Her eyes brimming with tears, she rushed into the arms of the man she loved. We had promised to stay by each other's side. On that very first day, when she called out to the woman, Mom, full of eagerness, Yun Young had thrown a bucket of cold water right at her face. Oh, she looked at Subin with eyes full of contempt and said, Who is your mother? You think you're going to marry my Gunho? That was the very first thing the woman said to Subin the day she came to meet her. I'm afraid someone might hear, so don't call me that, understood? Yes, she said, her hand tightening around her own arm. And the moment her son was out of sight, the woman changed so completely that she became an entirely different person. Then, when news came that Subin's father had been in an accident, she had immediately forced Subin to break up with Gunho, throwing a wad of cash in her face as though she had been waiting for exactly this opportunity. Thinking back on it, Subin couldn't help but let out a scornful laugh. Even now, it still bothers me. She's still just as cold-hearted as ever. That reaction immediately irritated the other party. Oh, Yun Young slammed her hand down on the chair in fury. Did you just laugh in the face of someone older than you? Do you find this funny? Well, it's been 3 years since we last saw each other, and you suddenly show up here. Isn't that a little ridiculous? Subin calmly tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. And what if I don't change jobs? She tilted her head, and the way she addressed the woman began to shift. Who do you think you are, deciding how I should live my life? Oh, the woman grew more and more intolerable, shrieking nonstop. What did you just call me? How do you want me to address you then? As ma'am? Or as his mother? Are you done talking? Seeing Yun Young getting more and more out of line, Subin immediately cut her off. I couldn't even say anything back there at the restaurant. How dare you? It's not that you couldn't, it's that you chose not to. She let out a helpless sigh. Even a 7-year-old knows how to behave properly at a restaurant. Subin picked up her bag and stood up. Only children throw tantrums, cry, and complain about things they can't have. What? She turned to leave, not forgetting to deliver one final withering remark. I hope I never have to see you again. Yun Young could only sit there, fuming and firing back into the void. You should be ashamed of yourself as an adult. What did you just say? Every word Subin had said hit so close to the truth that the woman couldn't argue back. How shameful that she couldn't even recognize what she had just done. You think I'm the one in the wrong? Subin walked away, unwilling to waste another moment on this woman. If you come here again, I'll call the police. Do you think Gunho will let this go after what you've done to me? Unable to win the argument, the woman resorted to threats. You still want to get hit like last time, don't you? Oh goodness, watch your mouth. Subin turned around with a mocking smile. Thanks to his mother, I realized that living alone is far more enjoyable. She followed it up with one final devastating blow. Don't you think you should change the way you talk if you want to keep your precious son around longer? What? Just at that moment, Subin's phone rang, and she answered it cheerfully. Oh, honey. The person on the other end seemed quite surprised by the way she answered. Is that your ex-boyfriend's name again? She glanced at Yun Young and replied casually, No, this time it's his mother. Where are you? At the hotel's cafe lounge. The person on the other end asked with concern, I'm almost there. Do you need me to come in? No, just wait outside. I'll be right out. After hanging up, she turned to inform her, Oh, I'm getting married soon. Hearing this, Yun Young was startled, her face contorting to an ugly degree. If it weren't for you, I probably wouldn't have met him. Subin smiled and bowed. I'm truly very grateful. She stammered and chased after her. Wait, as if suddenly remembering something, she stopped. Hey, why are you doing this? All right. Subin turned around and held out the stack of cash she had given her earlier. Take this back and feed your family with it. She placed it into that continuously trembling hand. I don't need it. She said her goodbyes and walked out, leaving the awful woman purple with rage. Yun Yung, furious, crumpled the bills. How dare you? She ground her teeth. Do you think I'll just let this go after you insulted me like that? Hurriedly chasing after Subin, she constantly cursed like an uneducated person. You bitch. You're mistaken. Her cheap shoes clacked loudly against the tiled floor. Even if you act foolishly like this, you're just like a fish out of water. Yun Yung quickly rushed outside. You'll never meet a good man. Reaching the door, she still didn't stop screaming. Hey! Oh! What struck her eyes was the affectionate image of Subin and Jae-jun. Her squawking voice seemed to have caught his attention. Jae-jun wrapped his arm around her, his eyes glancing towards her. Yun Yung stood frozen, as if dead. He looked towards her, his lips curving into a sarcastic smile. She stood bewildered, watching the two of them happily walking away side by side. The luxurious car's door slowly closed right before her eyes. Yun Young's whole body turned to stone, the bag in her hand dropping as she helplessly watched the car leave. Subin sat in the car, looking into the rearview mirror reflecting the image of the awful woman standing dumbfounded. She glanced at the driver's seat next to her. Jae-jun appeared at just the right time in front of that terrible woman. His face, as if stepping out of a comic book, was radiating a dazzling aura. I didn't even need to pretend to make her believe it. Subin nodded in satisfaction. That was more than enough. She's the type of person who is easily swayed by appearances. So she could guess that, obviously, she would think the two of them were really dating. Thinking about her once glorious past, Subin couldn't help but shudder. Seriously, I can't believe I almost became a daughter-in-law in that house. Good thing I hit the brakes in time. She immediately burst out laughing at her own thoughts. For a moment there, I thought marrying Jae-jun might be 10,000 times better. Seeing her sudden extreme reaction, Jae-jun wondered, did you lose a few screws again? What are you laughing at? Nothing, I was just thinking a bit. How interesting. Subin slowly recounted. I wonder if you felt the same way when you fought with that guy who tried to take your student council president position? Why bring that up all of a sudden? Jae-jun pursed his lips. I still believe that forgiveness is a good thing. I thought that the younger generation has a hard time expressing themselves in front of adults. She directed her gaze toward the sunset ahead. So I try to behave as politely as possible so as not to be like that person. And I always wondered why you were so stupid and stubborn. The two of them were completely immersed in their childhood stories. Do you remember what you said back then? Said what? Subin mischievously pulled the corners of her eyes up and mimicked Jae-jun's voice. The loser is the winner. Forgiveness is a virtue. Go home and teach your kids that. As for me, I'll live a life where if people hit me, I'll pay them back double. Until the day I close my eyes. Something like that, man. And then you slanted your eyes up like this. He was speechless, his eyebrows furrowed tightly. I just have to punch her, guys. She let out a breath and smiled faintly. I can't pay people back double after being hit by them. But letting people constantly provoke you isn't good at all, is it? Jae-jun was a bit sulky. If you listen to me, everything will be a piece of cake. Subin burst out laughing once again. It's quite funny that we both run into these kinds of things, isn't it? She leaned back and looked at the person next to her. I guess marrying you wouldn't be too bad. Jae-jun curled his lips into a happy smile. The car continued cruising smoothly down the empty road. It's on a whole other level, of course. When they arrived, Subin got out of the car, clutching her chest and panting. She tried to regulate her breathing to calm herself down. Why should I feel nervous when you're the one meeting my parents? That day, while Mrs. Jong was humming the lyrics, "Spring has come, spring is still dreaming," Subin suddenly announced, "Mom, there's someone I want to marry. We'll come to talk to you soon." She couldn't believe it and rushed over to give her a beating. "You brat, I spoiled you too much so you've gone bad, haven't you? Causing trouble again, huh? Mom, no, that's not it." Just thinking about it was enough to send chills down Subin's spine. Just a few days ago, I declared I'd be single for life, so it's only natural they feel this way. Trembling, she pressed the doorbell. I couldn't even tell them that person was Jae-jun. "Yes, please come in." As soon as the door opened, he followed Subin inside. "What did your parents say when you told them we were coming?" "Not much." She awkwardly asked, "What are they like? Should we buy something to bring?" "It's fine. My mom and my younger siblings are on vacation." These words immediately confused Subin. Tomorrow we will only meet my dad. Going on vacation while the two of us are coming over? She silently clicked her tongue. Well, they'll meet eventually when the two families meet. But didn't he say his dad was the only one who knows about this marriage contract? As soon as the door was opened, Subin said loudly, "I'm home." Her parents rushed to the door and were startled in surprise. Seeing Jae-jun, they cried out in shock. Why is Jae-jun? Yes, he's the one I want to marry. What? The two elders were so happy they couldn't close their mouths, constantly smiling. Oh my goodness, please come in. Pardon my intrusion. After that, the four of them sat face to face so Jae-jun could say something about the debt, ending with the sentence, "Please give your daughter to me." The conversation concluded with her parents pretending to have lost him. Subin's parents were still extremely happy when seeing him off. "Get home safely, son Jae-jun." "You shouldn't call him that, Jong." Watching the two of them teasing each other made her furious. "You should call him Subin's husband, right? A perfect son-in-law act. Hollywood is calling your name." Jae-jun suddenly turned around. "Oh, ma'am, I bought this on the way here." He took out a sparkling bouquet of flowers from the car. "I wonder if you like flowers?" "Oh my." She shyly reached out to take it. "It's so beautiful. What woman could ever hate flowers? I'm so glad you like it." Subin started to feel insecure. "Your own daughter isn't going to be cast aside, is she?" Jae-jun politely asked to leave. "Then I'll take my leave." "All right, get home safely." Subin's husband. An arm suddenly rested on her shoulder. He hugged Subin and smiled faintly. "I'm heading home." Her whole body froze stiff, standing next to her parents and waving like a robot. "Drive safely." The car started and gradually disappeared behind a small street. Subin secretly sighed. Did we pass the test smoothly? Her parents still couldn't stop praising him. He grew up to be so handsome. I don't know who he takes after to be so bright. His parents must be satisfied just looking at him. Turning to go inside, Subin still tried to glance back one last time. I wonder what his family is like. The next morning, she dressed neatly and brought her stiff body to his house. Relax. Standing in front of the huge house, she couldn't hide her shock. Today we are going to Jae-jun's house to pay our respects. Even his family's maids made Subin nervous. The power of money, I suddenly feel so small. The master is waiting in the dining room. His father walked over and gave a polite, faint smile. "Welcome." She spoke respectfully. "Hello, I am Sim Subin. Very nice to meet you." Faced with his soft-spoken manner, Subin could only smile. "I hope to have your help in the future." "Yes, sir." Mrs. Moon used to be like that too, right? She had worried whether she would be treated like before. But things weren't like that at all. The three of them sat facing each other, eating in silence. Setting the obligation aside, why isn't anyone saying anything? Subin stealthily glanced at the two of them. The suffocating atmosphere made her realize that the two of them were obviously uncomfortable with each other. She awkwardly put another bite in her mouth. "It seems I don't care about other people's business either. I'll just eat then." Before leaving, Subin carefully gave him a gift. "Although it's nothing grand, my parents prepared this." "Thank you." He handed it to the maid and quickly bid them both farewell. "Then we'll take our leave." Stepping out of the place, Subin still couldn't help but look back. How should I put this? There's nothing making me hesitate, but strangely, I feel like things won't be easy. She directed her gaze to the person next to her. Is this what it feels like to live in that house? Jae-jun always wore an unapproachable expression under the rustling trees. Jae-jun walked forward silently without any emotion. It seemed like only Subin was busy with her own thoughts. He'll never change, will he? The atmosphere in the hospital room was bustling and happy. Subin held the grandmother's hand and asked, "We're here. Are you feeling any better?" She answered happily, "Oh my lovely granddaughter-in-law. I feel much better because you're here." Subin took out a box and handed it to her. "My parents were very worried, so they told me to bring this traditional medicine to you." "Mama, is that so?" "Thank you so much, my dear." She didn't forget to remind her, "Please take them and get well soon." The grandmother took a piece of candy and put it in her mouth, holding her cheek with a warm smile. "This is truly the only way to help me recover quickly." She reached out to caress the face of her dearly beloved granddaughter-in-law and confided sincerely, "I wish the two of you would get married soon and have a cute baby. Please stay by my grandson's side and help him for the rest of his life." Subin listened attentively to her words. In her heart, she felt immense pity for her. She looked so much weaker. She kept praising her. "Oh my, how's my granddaughter-in-law? So warm and beautiful." Subin replied modestly, "You are too." In the background, Jae-jun watched the two of them without taking his eyes off them. He seemed to have a lot on his mind. After chatting for a while, it was time to say goodbye. The grandmother and granddaughter-in-law hugged each other for a long time. I'll see you later then. Jae-jun looked at that scene, wondering how difficult this must be. She really hasn't changed at all from before. Finally, that day arrived. It was a beautiful sunny day. The weather was extremely favorable, as if one had joined the fun for the big day. It was the meeting between the two families. They sat opposite each other at a long banquet table. Subin's parents spoke first. "It's a pleasure to meet your family." The other party politely replied, "It's my pleasure too." Next was the scene of the parents talking. Subin didn't dare to say anything, but sit still. "We can skip those formalities. I hope you won't feel pressured by it." "No, it's fine. We have prepared a little something for the kids. After all, it's the kids' matter. Adults like us shouldn't get too involved. I just want to do something for the kids, though it's not much." "Is that so?" Subin glanced over the members of her boyfriend's family and thought to herself, well, it seems they don't talk much either. Even Jae-jun's siblings look quite indifferent to the meal. No, it's as if they don't care much about this marriage at all. But there were times when the younger sister kept staring at Subin, making her a bit uncomfortable. Wow, guess we'll be loving sisters right from day one. In a flash, the meal ended. It seemed everything went smoothly. The adults noisily greeted each other, then have a safe trip back. The two fathers shook hands, exchanging pleasantries. "Your daughter is very beautiful. Thank you very much for agreeing to marry her to my son." No, we are very happy that you accepted her. It's an honor to have her become a member of our family." Subin stood nearby, her expression a bit thoughtful. Time flew by, and before she knew it, the wedding day was approaching. The bride was ready. Subin looked absolutely stunning in her pristine, flowing white dress. A gentle, elegant beauty blended with the mature grace of a true lady. She was so beautiful that it brought her mother to tears. Seeing this, Subin grew worried and quickly asked, "Mom, are you crying?" Her mother sniffled, wiping her tears and stammering to hide her emotions. "What are you talking about?" "Of course not." Perhaps wanted to ease her mother's tension. She joked, "You're not? Oh my, don't get so emotional. Or should I just call off the wedding?" Sure enough, her mother immediately regained her composure and playfully scolded her daughter. I can never win an argument with you." Subin looked at her mother and smiled brightly. Then she admired herself in the mirror. "I've been waiting for this moment my whole life." She smiled softly in contentment, waiting for this veil to be lifted, waiting to appear in a white wedding dress, waiting to see the awestruck face of the man I love. Scenes like that. Although she genuinely felt happy, Subin never forgot to remind herself that right at this moment, the scene unfolding before her was just a reminder that this was merely a fake marriage. She tried to suppress the churning anxiety in her mind to deceive herself. "Well, I'll be fine." Subin looked at her mother with a somewhat reassured gaze. "Mom is here with me, and that alone is enough." Then the big moment finally arrived. The wedding was held at a rather grand wedding hall. "Groom, please step this way." Subin stood outside the doors of the ceremony hall with her father. A staff member said, "The priest will be heading in shortly." She placed her hand on her father's arm and noticed he was trembling. Subin smiled reassuringly. "Dad, relax." He immediately nodded. She watched her father gulp nervously and thought to herself, "Dad didn't want any mistakes to happen while walking me down the aisle, so he's been practicing this over and over for days." The MC solemnly announced, "Here comes the bride." Her father took her arm, leading her step by step toward a new chapter of her life. He whispered, "Subin, please be truly happy, my daughter." Hearing those words, an indescribable wave of emotion choked her up, a stark contrast to her calm demeanor when she was reassuring him earlier. Standing face to face with the groom, Subin suddenly felt a surge of confusion in her heart. Of course, everyone here expects a happy life, but why do I feel so guilty? Her father handed her over and requested, "Please take good care of my daughter." But at that moment, instead of meeting Jae-jun's eyes, she simply looked away. Jae-jun perceptibly noticed her unusual demeanor right away. He took her hand, and at that very moment, tears began to stream down her cheeks. The two stood side by side, facing the priest, who began to read the vows. "Do you, Ji Jae-jun, take Shin Subin to be your wedded wife, and swear to always love her, care for her, and stand by her in times of hardship, in sickness and in health, for as long as you both shall live?" "Yes, I do." "Do you, Shin Subin, take Ji Jae-jun to be your wedded husband, and swear to always stand by him to share, love, and go through sickness and health together, for as long as you both shall live? Yes, I do. The response that slipped from Soo-bin's lips felt a bit hollow. The remainder of the ceremony was lively, filled with music blending into the cheerful chatter of the guests. She looked over at the girls who were partying wildly and felt a twinge of jealousy. I want to be out there partying like there's no tomorrow, just like the girls these days. Her mood drooped, devoid of any energy. Or at least have my friend sing a song for me. Jae-jun was still paying attention to every little detail about Soo-bin, including her sniffling right now. He asked with concern, "Is the baby crying?" Soo-bin immediately denied it. Not at all. Despite her words, he still reached out to gently wipe her tears away, every gesture incredibly tender. Jae-yoon smiled comfortingly. "Don't cry." But his next sentence was unexpectedly teasing. "Your crying face is going to give me nightmares. Plus, everyone is taking pictures. A quick smile is worth 1,000 words of love. Smile like me right here." Soo-bin was dumbfounded and cursed inwardly, this lunatic. But regardless, she couldn't help but chuckle. With that, their wedding ceremony concluded beautifully. Looking out the airplane window, night had already fallen and the passenger cabin was fully booked. Soo-bin and Jae-jun settled into their seats. Gazing out the window into the distance, she spoke up. "Hey, remember to keep your word. You said it yourself, that you'd be a good son-in-law for the duration of the contract." Jae-jun affirmed, "I did say that." At that moment, the airplane's PA system crackled to life, announcing that the flight was about to take off. He said in a firm voice, "No one will be at a disadvantage in this marriage." Soo-bin suddenly stiffened, perhaps out of nervousness. Seeing her awkward demeanor made him curious. "Did you eat something weird? Why do you look like a country bumpkin on her first trip to the city?" Soo-bin struggled to maintain a calm composure and replied, "Well, yeah, this is my first time flying in the sky. How else am I supposed to act? I really should have tried this at least once before when I had the chance." Just as she finished speaking, the plane experienced some turbulence, causing her voice to crack. Because they were taking off, the plane felt a bit unsteady and wobbly. Soo-bin was so terrified she squeezed her eyes shut, not daring to open them. Shit. After a while, the plane stabilized. Only then did she dare to peek her eyes open, her tense nerves finally relaxing. Just glancing out the window, the entire panoramic view of the city illuminated at night was captured in her sight. The spectacular view left Soo-bin wide-eyed and open-mouthed in awe. Wow. Unable to contain herself, she blurted out in awe, "Oh wow, the night view is insanely beautiful." Jae-jun lightly pressed a cold canned drink against Soo-bin's cheek. "Here." His face showed no emotion, maintaining his usual aloof demeanor. "Quiet down and drink this." She reached out to take the can, showing nothing on the outside, but feeling very pleased on the inside. The two clinked their cans together. "Cheers. Perhaps this will be the start of a fun trip." Soo-bin drank while thinking to herself, although this honeymoon wasn't exactly planned, it's still a vacation, right? It was clear that Soo-bin was incredibly excited right now. "I can't wait." Taking a red-eye flight made it impossible for Soo-bin to fight off her sleepiness. She kept nodding off. In her drowsy state, she accidentally tilted her head and leaned it against Jae-jun's shoulder. He didn't wake her up. He just sighed and gently patted her head. Soo-bin was completely fast asleep. She didn't realize she was leaning on him. Only her soft, steady breathing could be heard. But suddenly, Jae-jun shoved Soo-bin away. Her head hit the side of the plane with a brutal thud. "Geez, you're heavy." Even after being shoved that hard, she continued to sleep soundly as if nothing had happened, drooling all over the place. Jae-jun let out another exasperated sigh, took off his own neck pillow, and wrapped it around Soo-bin's neck. And so, the rest of the flight passed peacefully. By the next morning, the two had arrived at the beach. Golden sunlight drenched the sky, cascading down onto the shady canopies of palm trees. Soo-bin couldn't hide her excitement and gasped, "Oh my." Today, she was wearing a very summery, beach-ready outfit, a floral-patterned shirt and shorts, with a bright red fresh flower lay around her neck. The beach was bathed in golden sunshine and a cool breeze, bustling with other tourists, some laying out mats, others relaxing under large umbrellas. Soo-bin cheered excitedly. It's Waikiki Beach. Completely immersed in the joy of the vacation, Soo-bin said emotionally, "I can't believe I'm actually in Hawaii." Jae-jun walked up and held out a card. "Here." It was a hotel room key card. He smiled and said, "Aloha, enjoy these next 5 days." But why were there two separate room cards? A moment later, the two bid each other goodbye and stepped into two rooms directly opposite each other, acting completely nonchalant without any further instructions, basically saying, "Every man for himself." Subin entered her room and closed the door. She immediately widened her eyes in astonishment. Whoa! The room had a direct view of the vast, mesmerizing blue ocean. Subin was utterly enchanted. "Oh my God, look at this view." She ran straight out to the balcony, leaning against the railing in excitement. "Wow, it's still so hard to believe I'm in Hawaii." The waves crashed rhythmically, the sound of the ocean filling her ears. Subin smiled in pure satisfaction. After taking in the view, she went back inside and plopped down onto the bed. Subin leisurely stretched her arms and legs, letting out a long, blissful yawn. Ah, this is the life. She lay on the bed, letting her mind wander. "I want to go surfing and then eat a ton of delicious food. I love this." Subin nuzzled her head into the plush pillow, her face radiating pure contentment. Everything is absolutely perfect from A to Z. She couldn't resist the wave of drowsiness washing over her because the bed was just too comfortable. "I'm passing out now." Just as she was dozing off, the phone suddenly started vibrating violently, startling her awake. Subin groggily sat up, casually wiped her drool, and looked over to the side. The phone? The name Mrs. Zhang appeared on the screen. A feeling of being caught behind someone's back welled up in her stomach, and Subin became extremely anxious. "Damn, I don't want Mom to see me alone in her room." She immediately cleared her throat to regain her composure and answer the phone. Mom. A voice came from the other end. "Daughter, did you arrive safely?" Of course. We landed very smoothly." As soon as she heard the other end, showing signs of asking about Jae-jun, Subin hurriedly covered it up, turning on her skill of lying without blinking. "My husband? He's taking a shower right now." Even so, Subin was still nervous to death. Lying so much it made her dizzy. "Oh, did I call a bit too early? You two haven't had a chance to eat yet, right?" Her mother asked with gentle concern. "What are you going to eat? Remember to take a few shots and send them to me." Zubin replied, "Relieft? Yes. I heard there's a famous restaurant around here, so we'll probably video call you later when we get there." "Oh, all right, I'll be waiting." Before hanging up, she added, "Enjoy your trip, daughter." "Yes, I will enjoy it, Mom." She answered her mother while crying inside with regret. Damn, I should have said I'd send photos instead of video call. Having just breathed a sigh of relief for 3 seconds, another call came to bother her. This time it was even more deadly. It was her mother-in-law. Subin felt like lightning had struck her ears. "Oh my God, my mother-in-law too?" She hastily answered the phone. "I'll just have to improvise." "Oh, hello, Mom. Did I arrive safely?" "Yes, of course I did." Subin continued, "I was just about to call you." Before she could finish her sentence, she was interrupted by the other end. "Can you buy me a bag when you come back?" She hadn't even processed it yet. "Ah, yes. Buy a Chanel one." Subin reluctantly replied, "Ah, yes." Thinking to herself, "Sigh, a bag? I was going to tell Jae-jun to buy it, but that boy isn't answering his phone at all." "Ah, well," she stammered her reply. "He's taking a shower right now, Mom." "Is that so? Oh my, I hope I'm not bothering you too." "Ahaha, no problem at all." Next, she gave a continuous string of instructions. "Right, the boy is married now. Anyway, enjoy your trip and send a few shots to Grandma. It would be better if you two video called." Subin reluctantly replied, "Yes, Mom." Putting the phone down, she completely collapsed, her mood visibly dropping. "I thought escaping here would mean freedom." Subin opened the room door, and as soon as she stepped out, she ran into Jae-jun, who was also holding his head in distress. She nodded in sympathy. "Oh, you too, huh? This isn't good." He suggested, "Let's just go eat together today." Subin agreed sluggishly. "Sounds fine." She staggered away. A moment later, the young couple arrived at the restaurant and ordered a table full of delicious food. He raised his phone, wrapping his arm around Subin's back to prepare for a report photo. "Come here." In the camera was a happily smiling Jae-jun. He told Subin to smile, and then snapped a shot as fast as lightning before she could even prepare. She irritably pulled at Jae-jun, trying to snatch the phone from his hand. "Hey, I hadn't even opened my eyes." "It's perfectly fine. The photo looks great." He sent the photo to the elders with a message. "We're here to enjoy our honeymoon. Please don't ask too much." Echoing next to him was Subin's sharp cursing. "Damn you." The phone rang. Ding. "Who are you calling?" "Grandma?" The other end immediately picked up. It was Subin's parents. They greeted them enthusiastically. "Oh my, here's our beloved son-in-law." Jae-jun flipped his attitude faster than flipping a pancake. The way he put on a welcoming, handsome face for them truly left Subin in awe. Hello, Mom. We're out to eat right now. What about you and Dad? We've already eaten. You two must be struggling a bit with the time difference, right? Jae-jun enthusiastically replied, Haha, it's fine. Next time, I'll bring you both here. Oh ho ho, thank you. How can our son-in-law be so adorable? It's nothing at all. Oh my, really? Oh ho ho. Subin sat next to him, flashing a smile that couldn't be more forced. On the other side of the screen, her parents were probably very reassured about their daughter and her husband. Look, dear, look at this pair of lovebirds. She glanced softly at him, a thoughtful look in her eyes. He turned off the phone and said, I already called Grandpa and Grandma earlier. Turns out he was thoughtful too. I was worried they would be asleep if I called late. She agreed. MHM, good job. Then there was a short silence. Only the sound of Subin chewing her food could be heard. He stood up to leave. Eat to your heart's content. She wondered, where are you going? Jae-jun turned his back to leave, taking the chance to call back. I'm gonna go eat something healthier. Subin didn't suspect a thing. He's considering what to eat, huh? She rested her chin on her hand, chewing her food and muttering. Actually, no, he just wants to stay a million miles away from me. Subin didn't mind those things. Now she only cared about filling her stomach. So delicious. Jae-jun returned to his room alone, just as the sunset was gradually casting a sorrowful hue over the sea. A sigh could be heard from somewhere. He poured himself a full glass of beer, his wistful gaze looking far out into the distant sea. Telling himself, now that's better. Standing in front of the lavish dining table, someone gently spoke. Good morning. Subin arrived at the dining table where Jae-jun was sitting, pulled out a chair, and said, Hey, let's eat together. Seeing her approach, he immediately got grumpy. Hey, where are you sitting? Get lost, will you? Jae-jun pointed to the bunch of empty seats behind him, saying in annoyance, Look at how many tables and chairs are behind me. Once you're done looking, pack up so I can enjoy my meal. Hearing him say that, Subin immediately flared up. This guy, I really don't like him. Right after, she smiled faintly and mocked him. Do you mind my presence that much, enough to make our little Jae-jun sick? Oh wow, I had no idea. Jae-jun didn't back down, immediately retorting, Worry about yourself first. Subin didn't continue arguing. She opened her phone and muttered, I haven't had a chance to meet your grandparents yet. They're probably waiting for me to call. A moment after the phone rang, someone answered, Hello. Subin immediately cheered with joy. Grandma. Grandpa, can you see us? We're eating breakfast right now. A gentle voice immediately came through. Oh my, look who it is. Looking at the sparkling flower trellis on the other side of the screen, Subin exclaimed, Wow, the flowers are so beautiful. Is Grandma out for a walk? The old lady smiled and replied, Haha, yes. Then, when they noticed the two's dining table, the old lady spoke up in dissatisfaction. But why is my grandson's plate full of greens? How will you have enough energy for tonight, my child? Jae-jun was teased so much he shyly covered his face with his hand, calling out helplessly, Grandma. Meanwhile, Subin took the opportunity to laugh gloatingly. She told her, Haha, don't worry. I brought Jae-jun a whole pile of meat here. The old lady was finally satisfied, praising continuously, good job. What a capable wife. Jae-jun rested his chin on his hand in boredom, listening to her continue chatting with his grandma. I hope Grandma's treatment goes well. I'll come visit as soon as we return to Korea. Goodbye, Grandpa and Grandma. Suddenly, something poked at the plate of food in front of her, making Subin turn her head in surprise. Seeing the food on her plate naturally being taken away, she looked bewildered. Hey! Her piece of food was casually put into his mouth by Jae-jun, and she screamed in anger, Wait, my eggs. He let go of the fork, giving a half smile and said, Didn't you want to be a capable wife sharing food with your husband? Subin was so angry she slammed the table. She yelled out in her frustration. Right after that, she picked up her plate of food, walked away, then turned back to make a funny face at him. If you want to eat, go get it yourself. She went to another spot and sat down, angrily scolding as she walked. Can't you even get a piece of meat yourself? Yeah. Jae-jun looked at her in boredom, sighing as he thought, It's because you acted like that in front of my grandparents. Then, the corners of his lips couldn't help but curl up into a smile. I appreciate your cooperation. Keeping that smile, he turned around to look at her and thought, But I never thought a girl like you would say that. Suddenly, Jae-jun's smile faded. He paused, stunned. Looking at Subin happily eating over there, he thought to himself, There are still many things I don't know. Even though she really is weird, she's still pretty good at this. She was still devouring her food, and Jae-jun's thoughts drifted away again. She's so hungry? Where'd she get the stomachache from eating like that? A moment later, Subin's face immediately turned pale. She squeezed her hands, thinking to herself, I think I have indigestion, probably from eating too fast. She glanced behind her, thinking, because I'm not used to eating alone. Looking at Jae-jun still leisurely eating breakfast in the distance, she thought, but I guess that's not a problem for him. Her feet gently stepping on the sand, she decided to let it go, whatever. Subin grabbed her selfie stick and excitedly ran out to the beach. She decided she had to enjoy this to the fullest. The click-clack sound of taking photos rang out. Subin looked into the camera, thinking to herself, I don't think his family will want to see this, but it's better to be prepared. I'll show it to my parents when I return. From the tall building echoed her cheerful shout, Aloha. And now, the most important part of the trip, the thing I've been looking forward to. The resort staff enthusiastically asked, How can I help you? Subin thought about her plan and immediately told the staff member, Can I book a dinner cruise?